Well, hello everyone. Happy Tuesday, I think it is. I apologize in advance if people are used to watching the stream on Odyssey or Rockfin or Rumble or Gitter or any other place that I usually stream it as. I've had quite a busy day, as evidenced by the fact that I haven't even really I put a headband on, didn't even do anything with my hair, nothing like that. I've had quite a busy day, which I will be explaining to you guys in a second. And I usually do stream on other platforms. I just did not have time to set up the streams on the other platforms today because I have been busy. But guys, guess what? For the next couple of hours, we are not going to talk about Tim Pool at all. Okay, maybe just a smidgen at the beginning because it's relevant to something that I've been doing today. But this is not going to be a stream about Tim Pool. It is not going to be a stream about Tim Pool. I promise you. We're doing Schools Exposed live investigation stream today. If you have never been to a Schools Exposed live investigation stream, what we do is we quite literally investigate the schools live. And these are the streams that you guys can really participate in. It doesn't just need to be me doing the investigation. It can be you doing the investigation as well. I see that my chief investigative officer bot is in the chat. She is the cult's chief investigative officer, and she is extraordinarily helpful on these streams. What we do is we poke around public information that the school has posted to find out exactly and precisely what the schools are teaching your kids. And this is actually going to be day 2 of our Fairfax County, Virginia investigation stream. We started the investigation stream last week when that one, when I got a hold of a copy of the social emotional learning survey that the Fairfax County, Virginia schools are using with. We'll talk about Tim Pool in a second. I've got more Tim Pool stuff for you. Some of you love the drama and some of you hate the drama. I will be doing a Tim Pool update before we get started because there is actually a pretty significant fucking update. But so last week we started our Fairfax County, Virginia schools investigation. I got a hold of a social emotional learning survey. We went through the 173 questions that the schools are asking of students, and some of them are pretty shocking, if I'm honest about it. So today we are going to continue into day 2, and I don't know what we're going to find. I really don't. We're going to discover this together, but I do know there's shenanigans going on in the Fairfax County, Virginia schools. I know that because I can already tell just from a brief perusal of their website. And so today we're going to be digging deep. Now, school investigation streams, just to warn everyone, sometimes they can be a little slow. And the reason they can be a little slow is this is quite literally a live investigation. What that means is we need to read stuff. We need to read stuff, and we need to watch video, and we need to look at people's social media, and we need to start piecing together pieces of the puzzle. But I promise you, I have done school investigation streams for Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Rochester, New York, Chicago, Illinois, Austin, Texas, San Francisco. We just did one. I have yet to do a school investigation stream where we don't come across the smoking gun at some point. Universally, we find something before the stream is over. It might take us some hunting to get there. It might take us some digging to get there, but we will get there eventually. And I already have a couple things pulled up for Fairfax County, Virginia that I do want to watch. I do want to take a look at in order to try to figure out exactly and precisely what's going on in the schools that the schools might not be telling the parents about. One of the things that we've learned on these streams is that the schools do this stuff live in the open. They have such hubris about it. They are not shy about it. But the problem is that oftentimes what they're doing is difficult for people to understand because they don't speak the language and they don't know where to look for the documents. So that's why we do school investigation streams, so you guys can learn how to do it and apply it to your own school district and see what you find. Now, I am actually currently working on a program to train parents how to do this. This is the Schools Exposed program that I was able to crowdfund earlier this year. And you can get access and find out more about this program at unwokearmy.com/parents. What's going to happen is that's going to redirect you right to this Indiegogo campaign. You can still donate to this and get involved in this if you want. There's still spots in the program available. There's still other perks you can take advantage of. But basically, what I'm doing is I'm building an online training program that will teach parents exactly how to do what we're doing today. On Schools Exposed investigation streams, I go really quickly because we got a lot to get through, and I don't want to keep people busy as we're kind of slowly explaining things and breaking them down. But when I'm building out the Schools Exposed program, I will be breaking things down. I will be making them easy to understand, and it is my goal to run 10,000 parents through this program over the next 2 years to make sure that we have an army of parents that knows exactly how to find documents, knows how to suss out information, understands the language that the schools are using, so that those parents can be on the front lines to keep the schools in check. This is the only way. The only way this is going to stop. And I do believe that the schools are the epicenter of what's going on with the woke ideology. I believe that they are ground zero. I believe they are the most important thing that we can focus on in regards to the woke ideology. And the only way this ends is when the public demands that it ends. So what I want to do with the Schools Exposed program is do a giant download of everything I have learned over the last 3 years, being immersed in this pretty much full time, all day, every day. I want to teach as many people as I can about this so that they can then apply these tactics in their hometown, in their home school district, to find out what's going on and to share this information with parents. This is the only way it's going to work. This is the work that is not sexy. It is not flashy. It doesn't have Tim Pool's name all over it, so sometimes people overlook it. But I do think that this is the most important work that any of us can do. So if you'd like to find out more about my program, get involved with it, get your slot when it launches in January, and it will be launching in January. I've been working on developing it behind the scenes for about a month now. I am right on track. It is going to launch in January. I haven't been talking about it publicly because I have a horde of haters on the internet. And every time I talk publicly about something I'm doing, this horde of haters tries their level best to sabotage it. And a lot of times they are actually successful in sabotaging it. So I'm keeping it zipped at the moment as I'm developing the program. But those in my community know I'm working on this. And it will be launching in January, and there will be more information about that soon. But if you want more information right now on what I'm building, you can head over to unwokearmy.com/parents. Just follow the link that is tickering right along the bottom of the chat. It is also in the description below this video. There's a 10-minute explainer video, and you can peruse the materials for yourself so you can see exactly and precisely what I'm building. And if you want to fund it, or donate to it or get involved, there are options to do that, and I would love the help. I would appreciate the help. And if you can, guys, can share this out with as many people that you know that have school-age children, that would be really, really great and really, really helpful, and I very, very much appreciate it. All right. Before we get into our investigation stream, well, I spent the better part of my afternoon talking with not him. Well, I actually have been talking to him today, but him too. Talking with her. I just got off the phone with Lisa Poole not too long ago. Lisa Poole is is Tim Poole's sister. She is very, very concerned about the changes that she has seen in her brother over the past couple of years. And she's put a video on her YouTube channel today. She put about a half an hour video on her YouTube channel today because she wants to tell her side, and she wants her brother back is what she wants. I've already seen some people say that that Lisa Poole is doing this because she's jealous and it's about money. I promise you that Lisa is not doing it for money. She's not. She could have been taken care of by Tim. She could have, but she chose not to be. And she's doing this because she has seen a lot of changes in her brother over the past several years, and she wants her old brother back. And I am I'm shocked at some of the things that Lisa told me today. I'm not going to tell her story because it is her story to tell. But at midnight tonight, we're doing another midnight movie. I will be watching the video. I have not seen the video yet. I know what Lisa has told me, but I have not watched it yet because I just haven't had time. I literally just got off the phone with her like half an hour ago. Um, and so I haven't had time to watch it yet, but I will be watching it live. Lisa has asked that I spread the word about this because she doesn't have the contacts or the platform in order to do it. And she thinks that that's the only way she's going to be able to get her brother's attention. And so I will be watching the video live on my channel at midnight tonight because I'm a night owl, as many of you know. And it will be my first reaction to it because I don't have time to watch it between now and then. I have a life too, god damn it. And so that's what we're going to be doing later on tonight. If you're awake, that's fine. If you are not awake, I did post the link. Bree says, can you link her channel in the comments? So I did, if you go to the community tab on my channel, I did actually share the video out to the community tab. And I've also posted it on my Twitter. Again, I haven't watched it yet just because I talked to her on the phone. And so I kind of know, I have an idea of what she said in the video, but I will be seeing it for the first time at midnight. And I want to make sure that, that as many people see it as possible. And hopefully maybe it sends a wake-up call to her brother. I don't really know. Bree also says, somewhat West Wing related, I pity the school district that tries to do this with Sam and Ainsley's kids. I'd pay money to have a ringside seat. Well, I don't know. Sam might be in support of this. Sam might be in support of this. Do I ever sleep? Not really. Not these days. I tend to sleep between the hours of 3 a.m. and 9 a.m. That's my sometimes 4 to 10, sometimes around there. I'm a night owl. I've always preferred working at night. I write better at night. I'm more focused at night. I think there are less distractions at night. I am not a morning person at all. And so I can create my own schedule doing this, and I choose to work midday to late night. And I spill my coffee all over the place. Yes, I'm still drinking coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Hang on. So, guys, we will be doing Lisa Poole video at midnight tonight. And, of course, before that, it's a 3-stream kind of day. So before that, at 9:30 p.m. tonight, we will be doing Nothing Remotely Controversial with Joshua. If you've never seen Nothing Remotely Controversial, it is a really fun show that I do with my friend and my life coach, Joshua the Psychic. And he is a professional psychic and he's been doing it for a really long time. And basically, we talk about the news and what's going on in the world. And Joshua uses his psychic tarot card powers and like empath powers to peer beneath the surface and to give us more information on what's going on. And it's a really fun show. And even if you don't believe in psychics, it's really fun. Joshua is very cute. He is delightful. He is a ball of energy and joy and positivity. And we all love Joshua. So even if you don't believe in psychics, you don't have to. You can still come and enjoy the show. And you can super chat in and ask questions. Do you want to know if Kanye West planned to walk off Tim Pool's show live last night? Then you can come and ask Joshua and he will tell you. Joshua has also been working with a new spirit guide lately, and it's actually kind of creepy for me to see because I've been working with Joshua for years, and he is like this whoever this guide is like it's enhancing Joshua's psychic powers. Joshua is getting more psychic and he's getting really good at reading like national news and stuff like that. So he is freakishly accurate with his predictions. He doesn't get everything right, but he gets a lot more right than he reasonably should. So come join us for tonight, Nothing Remotely Controversial, at 9:30 tonight, and we will do that. And guys, just as a reminder, if you want to support the work I'm doing in addition to in addition to funding my Indiegogo campaign to help me train 10,000 parents how to find out what the schools are teaching their kids, you can also support my work with a monthly donation via Patreon, anywhere from $5 a month all the way up to $250 a month, depending on what perks you want. If you want some swag, if you want some shout outs in my video, all of that stuff is available. You can find that over on Patreon. If you don't want to support through Patreon, that's totally cool, man. You can support my work on Locals. Locals is my private community and forum. It tends to be where I spend the most time. And if you want to interact with me, you can join there. It's $5 a month, $50 a year. You can also make a one-time gift. If you are a member on Locals or Patreon, you're going to get access to a variety of perks, to include 2 Zoom calls with me every single week that are private, that are not recorded, that are not for public consumption. I just did a 5-hour Zoom call with my community yesterday. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Yes, we talked about Tim Pool, but we talked about other stuff as well. You will also get access to things like Unabomber Book Club. As a reminder, your last reminder that Unabomber Book Club is this weekend for my community. We are reading the Unabomber Manifesto. You still have plenty of time to find it, plenty of time to read it. You can find it on the internet. You don't even need to buy it from anywhere. But we are getting together on Saturday at 3 p.m. to talk about the Unabomber Manifesto and to have a great discussion about it. That's only going to be available for my supporters in Patreon and Locals. And on Sunday, we have movie night in my supporter Discord. We are watching Fahrenheit 451, the original, not the remake, not the shitty HBO remake. We're watching the original because you should always watch the original. But we're going to be watching that in my supporter Discord. So if you join now by heading over to activelyunwoke.com/support, find my Patreon, head over to my Locals, whichever works best for you. You will not only get access to book club this weekend, you will not only get access to the Zoom call I will be doing with my community at noon tomorrow, you will also get access to my supporter Discord, and you can come and join us for our weekly movie nights. And they're really fun and they're really great, and we have a good time with them. Mark Robichaud says Unabomber ain't got nothing on Obama. I guess not, Mark. Carlin, our favorite federal employee, is being charged with theft. What's that about, Scott? I don't know what that's about. Who's being charged with what? What's going on? I've been on the phone all day. What's going on? Someone fill me in. Ah. Well, guys, please mount that like button and let's get into our schools exposed investigation stream for the Fairfax County Schools. Now, as I said, and you can find this, I'll put this in the chat. You Where we last left off with the Fairfax County Schools is that I showed you guys the social emotional learning survey that was sent out to the 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. We also ended up looking at the 6th grade one as well. And you can find all this information over on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. You can see the questions. You can actually download it for yourself. You can find out more of the articles that I published over on there if you want to. But that's where we kind of left off. And now we're going to be digging into a broader overview of the schools. Oh, that non-binary nuclear waste guy stole women's luggage. Wow. I saw something about him having a suitcase or something like on, and I didn't know what that was, worth about $2,300. Man, at least he's stealing nice luggage, I guess. So when we start a schools exposed investigation stream, okay, so we've got some new people here. So this might be people's first school. How many people in the chat are new to school investigation? How many people have never seen me do one of these before? Just show of hands in the chat if you're new and haven't seen it before. I think I see some new people. We've got some old ones too. I know that. Lydia is new. She hasn't seen school investigation before. All right. All right. Bot, it is not your first time. Don't be a liar. Oh, Cider's here. Cider, I'm really glad you're here. Leslie, first time. Jamie's said only passively. I think Sir Garland, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that. He's raising his hand. It doesn't show up there. Jeremy, first one. Last I was here was months ago. Well, I have done some school investigation streams in the meantime. Jotter's new to this. Sonia's new to this. All right. Excellent. So we've got some newbies here. So I'm going to go back and explain what we're doing when we're doing a schools exposed investigation stream is we're essentially trying to find out, has the woke ideology become integrated into the school district? We're talking about at the policy level and at the curriculum level. So a lot of times what you're going to see on the internet about the woke ideology in schools is what you're going to see is TikTok videos of teachers acting crazy. All right. Now, there's nothing wrong with TikTok videos about teachers acting crazy, but that's one person making a TikTok video. That's not necessarily reflective of what is actually going on in the classroom. They could be lying. We don't know. What we're doing in schools exposed investigation streams is the boring part of fighting back against the woke ideology. It's boring, but it's also like being a spy. I shouldn't say it's gonna be a boring stream. I don't wanna turn anyone off. It's kinda like being a spy. What we're trying to do is figure out what policies and procedures has the district implemented insofar as their student life policies, their students' code of conduct policies. Do they have a dedicated office, a team of people dedicated to equity, which equity tends to be code for like critical race theory, social emotional learning, all the woke stuff that we don't like. We're trying to find out, are they doing professional development with the teachers? Because anything that gets taught to the teachers in professional development will make its way into the classroom. We're trying to find out, is it integrated into the curriculum? We're looking at their social media posts. We're watching their videos, their training videos for students and for parents and for teachers. We're looking at the individual teacher social media post. We can go all over the place with this. When you first start an investigation stream, it be prepared for a fire hose of information coming at you about what's going on in the Fairfax County Public Schools. Now, I want to make a special note. When I start doing a school investigation stream, I never start at the school level. I start at the district level or the county level in this case. And I want to just put the link in the chat because all of you can participate in this. There is going to be a metric F ton of documents and things that we want to look into on this website. This is the Fairfax County Schools website. Why we start at the district or the county level is because everything that is done at the district or county level will eventually filter into the school level. So I don't want to start with like, I don't know, like, Washington High School in Fairfax County, Virginia. I don't want to start at the school level. I want to start at the county level because if I start at the county level, everything that I find at the county level is not only going to be in Washington High School, it's also going to be in every other school in the county. And a lot of times, what we're finding is that when schools are building out equity teams, diversity teams, inclusion teams, whatever they might be called, and they are called different things in every single school district, when they're building out these teams, they tend to do it at the district level. They don't do it at the school level. So that's why we start at the district level. It's just where you're gonna have the most information in terms of what's going to impact the most people. So it helps you get through a lot of stuff really quickly. Bree says, I know this is getting off topic, but Sam's views are based on his Justice League sense of the world and how the world should work. Sam would be open to changing his mind if he found a better way. I don't know, Bree. I kind of think Sam would be a social justice warrior. He'd be like a useful innocent. By the way, I call them useful innocents instead of useful idiots because I think like Sam would be one of those people that like he would do it because he thinks he needs to do it to be a good person and maybe he wouldn't be critical about it. I don't know. Maybe he would change, but we'll talk about that on West Wing video. We'll do that another time. Cider, who is a student in Fairfax County Public Schools, and Cider, fun fact, everyone give a round of applause to Cider because Cider is actually the spy that sent me the social emotional learning survey to begin with. So Cider is exceptional. He is a young man that is doing the right thing. Cider is doing more than a lot of parents do to fight back against this, and he's currently in school right now. So hooray for Cider. Cider is always in perpetual king of the chat because he's doing a great job and we really do appreciate him. So when we first start doing an investigation stream, what we want to do is we want to filter through as much information as we can as quickly as possible. And what I have found is that the easiest way to get to the heart of the matter of what's going on in the school district is to go right to the search bar and to type in equity. Now, who in the chat, no one that's been here before, I want to ask the new people, who in the chat knows why we search for equity as step 1 in our school investigation? Why might that be the search term that is going to produce us the most results? Anyone want to take a guess? You'll notice I'm not searching for critical race theory. I'm not searching for anti-racism. I'm searching specifically for equity. Because they're not going to call it critical race theory. If you go to your school district website and you type in critical race theory into the search bar, you ain't going to find a damn thing because they don't call it that. One of the tricks these people use is they use language to try to trick you. And equity just happens to be the term that is like the fad for a lot of schools to use. That's not to say they all use equity because they don't all use equity. They don't. Like Rochester, New York called they had some weird name that didn't even have any relevance to diversity, equity or any of this bullshit at all. They called it something weird. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it was like a weird thing. Anyway, the very first thing that we're trying to find is what is the name of their equity office? Is it diversity, equity, inclusion? Is it belonging? Is it student success? It could be any number of things, but we're trying to find out what is the name of their equity office, who is in charge of their equity office, and what are their general responsibilities? What has the school district already built out? So let's give equity a search. Bing. And this is going to come up with some stuff for us. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull this into a separate window real quick. And it didn't follow what I wanted to do. And the reason that I'm pulling this into a separate window is we're about to open a metric F ton of tabs. Again, when you first start school investigation, just prepare yourself for the fire hose of information because it's going to be a fire hose. We're going to sort through it as we go. All right. So, equity. Let me see. I can filter by, you know what? I actually haven't done this before. Well, actually, let's just go through and see. Equity and employee relations. Huh. What the hell is that? Fairfax County Public Schools interim chief equity officer talks about equity in education. Huh. Okay. Let's pull that up. The office, they have a chief equity officer. Aha. And look what this tells us too. One of the things we want to pay attention to when we're investigating is what is the staffing situation? Do they have a professional development staff? Do they have a whole built out equity team that's working with the different schools within the school district? What we're seeing here already, chief equity officer, the office of the chief equity officer oversees the Office of Professional Learning and Equity. Do you know what that means? And we see this right here, Office of Professional Learning and Equity. Let's pull that up. The Office of Professional Learning and Equity is where you're going to find the teacher professional development trainings, the things that your tax dollars are paying for to train the teachers. Anything that the teachers are trained on, you can make the assumption that it will eventually end up in the classroom at some point. All right. So, and the other thing about teacher professional development trainings, you can FOIA the hell out of that. We might not be able to find all of the information that we're looking for on their public website, but any information that we can't find, you make a note and you're like, I'm going to FOIA that later. FOIA, public records requests. You have access to all this information and the school district just has to send it to you. And all you need to do is make a request. So it's just a matter of noting that down. So I want to look into their Office of the Chief Equity Officer. I want to look into their Office of Professional Learning. Look at the description of this. Office of Professional Learning and Equity. And by the way, there is absolutely no reason that equity needs to be in the title of this office. I've never actually seen that before. Leads and provides dynamic professional development and family learning experiences that cultivate a community of learners where families, staff, and stakeholders partner to ensure students are inspired, engaged, and thriving. And that reports up to our chief equity officer. So we're already starting to get a sense of how it's staffed. Equity profile. What does that mean? Let's pull that up. Let's go on to page 2 of our search results. Spotlight on equity in education. Oh, here we go. Oh my God. Holy shit. What did we just find? Again, all we're looking at right now is the search results, okay? Focusing on equity in curriculum. Fairfax County Public Schools is committed to keeping equity at the center of all we do to ensure the academic and social emotional success of all students. There's going to be some stuff there. Let's pull that up. Equity and cultural responsiveness. What does cultural responsive teaching mean? Pop quiz in the chat. What does cultural responsive teaching mean? And by the way, while people are chatting in their answer to that, just so you know, the Fairfax County Public Schools have been one of the ground zero locations for parents fighting back and going to school board meetings. Parents have been going to school board meetings in Fairfax County for probably a year and a half. Every school board meeting, a year and a half. They've been speaking up. Do you guys see that they're still doing this shit in the Fairfax County Public Schools? That's a year of hardcore activism by parents. Now, what's happening is they're getting a lot of great videos to put on the internet of parents speaking at school board meetings, but are they actually changing things? This is where I need people to understand the difference. Just because you're going and speaking at a school board meeting does not mean you're changing the policies that the schools are putting in place. School boards, unless you live in Vermont or Connecticut, do not have say over the curriculum. So you can go speak at as many school board meetings as you want. It is not going to change the curriculum unless you live in Vermont or Connecticut, and Vermont is basically lost and Connecticut's not that far behind. Yup, cultural responsive teaching is CRT, critical race theory. No, this is incorrect, Leslie. I know why you think this. Critical race theory does not teach that white people are evil. It does not teach that. This is something you need to unlearn because the conservative media has lied to you. That's not what it teaches. That's not what it teaches at all. It actually teaches that white people are the most powerful people in the world. Marxism, that the West and capital, not the West, not the West. Critical race theory does not teach that the West is bad. This is another lie that conservative media has told you. It does not. It teaches that capitalism is bad. The number one enemy of critical race theory and the woke left ideology is not white people. It is not. That is not the truth. The number one enemy of critical race theory and the woke ideology in general is capitalism. If someone tells you it's white people, they're lying to you. But yep, this is just a rebrand. Exactly, Nick. Culturally responsive teaching is basically a rebrand of critical race theory. And Sider says, critical race theory teaches black kids like me that we are incapable of doing anything without the white man. That is exactly right. Critical race theory is racist. It is racist against everyone because it stereotypes everyone. And it says that we need to judge people on the color of their skin rather than on the content of their character or how hard they work or if they show up or the right attitude that they have or any of the other things that are not immutable characteristics. It is racist against everyone. And it's just as racist against black children like Cider as it is against white children. It's just racist in different ways. So don't listen to anyone that tells you that it's all about white people. It is not. It is detrimental to everyone. All right. We got a couple things to get started. I just want to keep going down. The hearings office conducts discipline hearings and determines the outcome on behalf of the division superintendent. Why does that report to the equity officer? That's a different thing. Sonia says CRT is an offshoot of Marxism. Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's start to look at what we have. Let's start to take a look. So the first thing we found was equity and employee relations form. All right, this is fine. And I also want to say this. Not everything that you're going to find on the school website is bad. Don't go into it with the mindset that everything that they're doing is bad. In fact, if you're doing this with your school district, they might not be doing anything wrong. They might not be doing anything detrimental. Okay? And so we don't want to go in with the assumption that everything is bad. I don't see, even though this has the word equity in the title, Sometimes they're just using this as a branding thing. I don't see anything bad on this page, so we're going to close it and we're going to quickly move on to the next thing. Aaron says, Carlin, you should, if you haven't, cover the first quarter report from the Fairfax County Public Schools for 2020 to 2021. Washington Post published it. All in all, it's very bad, and they never did another one. Remind me of that, Aaron. I will do that another time, I promise. All right, let's see. In this video conducted during the Equity Education Month in March 2022. All right, so their chief equity officer, this is a great starting point. So a lot of times when we're doing school investigation streams, we're going to come across videos and things that will be helpful for us to watch. Now, of course, this is a marketing piece. It's a marketing piece. So this probably isn't going to say anything like too damning, but what I want to do is I want to take a second to watch this video. This is their chief equity officer talking about equity and education month. That's a whole month now. Oh, great. From March of 2022. So let's hear what their chief equity officer has to say about what's going on. I just need to set this up in a different window. Guys, mount that like button if you're learning something so far. Let's watch this video.
I believe that every parent wants to see their child represented in all that we do in Fairfax County and all that we offer. And ensuring equity is at the center of all we say and do can help us reach that goal. For an example, there might be some schools whose PTAs are able to enhance
She didn't define
some of the
equity
experiences for students at that particular school. We as a district should make sure that regardless of a PTA can or can't, that the students of every one of our 198 schools
Thank you,
have
Brian.
those
I
same
appreciate it.
or experiences. And that's what we mean by equity, right? It's not taking away from anybody. It is making sure that we give everybody what they need to the best of our ability to be able to achieve. And
I want you to listen to the sleight of hand that she just did. Equity is not about taking anything away from everyone. It's about making sure everyone has what they need. This is the sleight of hand that these people do. Equity inherently is about equality of outcomes. They're trying to normalize outcomes. They're trying to make sure that everything ends up in the same place, that everyone ends up at the same level, that there is no exceptional. And in order to make sure that everyone ends at the same place, they're going to make sure that they are assigning and allocating resources based on perceived need. What do I mean by perceived need? Oftentimes, they will actually budget your tax dollars to allocate more tax dollars to some students rather than to other students based on the color of their skin, or based on their immutable characteristics, based on their gender, based on their sexual orientation. They're not giving everyone a fair shake. It's not about creating equal access to opportunity. It is about socially engineering these things so that everyone ends in the same place. But listen to the sleight of hand that they do, because I want you guys to be able to recognize this when it comes up in your school district. I want to just go back and listen to the sleight of hand.
it is making sure that we give everybody what they
Hang on, a little bit more.
have those same opportunities or experiences. And that's what we mean by equity, right? It's not taking away from anybody. It is making sure that we give everybody what they need to the.
It's not taking away from anybody. It's just making sure we give everyone what they need. I'm going to give you an example of something that actually came out of this school district. There is an 8th grade class on my channel. You can go and watch it. You can just search my channel for it. And it's a teacher teaching about equity. And it was a real 8th grade class. And the teacher basically said, some people only need 1 Big Mac to get full. Other people need 2 Big Macs to get full. Is it fair if a student needs to eat 2 Big Macs to get full, is it fair that that student only gets 1 Big Mac? We need to give them what they need to feel full. We're not taking a Big Mac away from that other student. We're just making sure that this student over here has 2 Big Macs because that other student only needs 1 Big Mac and this student needs 2 Big Macs. Does that sound like marks to anyone else? from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. That's Marx. We're not taking anything away from students. We're just making sure we're giving more to some students and not to other students. That's what she just said there. And they're doing it wide out in the open in a marketing video on the school website.
The best of our ability to be able to achieve. And what achievement looks like to families may be different. But in Fairfax County, we define what achievement looks like by our portrait of graduate attributes.
Thank you, Matt,
right?
man.
We want to make sure that students are critical thinkers when they leave us, that they're good citizens when they leave us. And sometimes we need to make sure through our equity lens that regardless of where your zip code is, that you're getting those same opportunities to achieve that. I think about the student that's sitting in the classroom that's waiting for us to make sure that we open the doors and not build walls to stop them from reaching their fullest potential. And that's what we all have to do in education. One person can change the trajectory of a student in the school system by a simple conversation. I believe in you, you are important, and you are capable.
So equity is just about helping students, guys. It's not about socially engineering outcomes. It's just about helping students. I want you guys to know, and Matt Man, I want to thank you for dropping by. If you can shoot me an email at activelyunwoke@gmail.com so I have your contact, that would be great. I will keep everything that you tell me confidential. And guys, if you ever have anything that you want to send me, activelyunwoke@gmail.com is my general email for this stuff. It does come right to me. So please send me anything you have. I will always keep things like anything you tell me confidential, unless we talk about unless basically you want me to release it, in which case I probably will. So send me everything you have, and then we can have a conversation about how to use that. All right. So we now know how the school district is positioning equity, which I think is important. Let's go back and look at some of these other websites. All right. I want to start off, not that one. The equity profile, student demographics, school profiles, student success, a caring culture, premier workforce, resource stewardship. We commit to foster a responsive, caring, and inclusive culture where all feel valued, supported, and hopeful. So this is like social emotional learning. That's not striking me as anything overtly negative right this second. Keeping equity at the center of instruction. Oh, ding, ding, ding. Fairfax County School is integrating culturally responsive design principles into its curriculum. They're telling us they're doing it. This is critical race theory, guys. I promise you. This is critical race theory. Let's look at their framework. If it wants to load. Social and racial equity policy. Let's look at this. Let's watch this.
One Fairfax is a social and racial equity policy in Fairfax County, adopted by the Board of Supervisors and the school board. Through One Fairfax, Fairfax County will focus on discovering gaps and potential opportunities to support our diverse population of residents and students of every race, gender, ability, income, and background. We will be looking through the lens of equity when programs, services, and decisions are formed on any level throughout the county. One Fairfax provides a valuable framework.
They're using equity to allocate resources throughout the county. I want someone in the chat to repeat back to explain why that might not be a good thing. If you see a video that says that they are using equity to distribute resources throughout the county, what does that mean to you? And if you don't know, take a guess. You're not going to get docked a grade or anything like that. This is an unofficial pop quiz. I just want to make sure people understand exactly what they're hearing. Because a lot of times when they present things in videos like this, it sounds so nice and they do that corporate music behind it. And so people don't think about what they're actually saying. What does it mean to say that they are distributing resources on the county level based on equity? They're assigning resources based on victimhood. They're not equally allocated. Redistribution and segregation. Let's be specific when we say resources. What's another word for resources? Let's be really specific here. Oh, Leslie's getting in there. Throwing more money at failing schools is not going to improve education equity. Getting closer. What do they mean when they say resources? Where do those resources come from? There it is. Mimi's got it. Real allocation of your tax dollars unequally. They're unequally distributing your tax dollars. Never forget that the schools are the government. You are paying for all of this. Resources are taxes. Schools are government. Teachers are government employees. Always remember this.
Work for decision making when we look at major issues such as transportation, land use, recreation, and education. Together with schools, businesses, faith communities, and nonprofits, Fairfax County is committed to providing equitable opportunities and fostering inclusive communities so that every hardworking student and resident has access to success. We are pleased our board, working with our colleagues at the County Board of Supervisors, has voted to approve the One Fairfax policy. The foundation for a successful community is a school system where all students have access to an excellent education, no matter where they live, where they've come from, or what challenges they may face each day. Fairfax County Public Schools is committed to providing a caring and inclusive culture where all of our children feel valued, supported, and hopeful. The One Fairfax resolution renews our promise to focus on each child by name, by need, and to continue to develop a workforce that reflects the growing diversity of our student population.
Oh, what did they just say?
Thank you to our...
What did they just say? We're going to develop a workforce that reflects the growing diversity of our student population. What does that mean? Pop quiz in the chat. What does it mean if you hear a school say they are going to develop a workforce that reflects the diversity of the student population? Any guesses? I'm not taking anything bad. I'm taking cold medicine because I'm congested. If you're wondering what that is, it's nothing bad. Yes, racial hiring, equity hires. They're hiring people. Well, I mean, they're discriminating. They're hiring people on the basis of race. That is not allowed. You're not allowed to hire someone on the basis of their race. You're only supposed to hire people on the basis of their qualifications to actually do the job. Oh, I hate swallowing pills. I hate it. All right. So we know they're doing that. Let's see. I want to go back and I want to look at that equity office. Why don't I have the equity office pulled up on my search results? Let's go back. Let's find the office of the Chief Equity Officer. What is NADOS doing? All right, so the Office of the Chief Equity Officer examines the greatest opportunities to achieve our goals as made as part of the One Fairfax policy. Okay, so this is the woman that is actually in charge of implementing the One Fairfax policy that we heard about earlier. We've got her video here talking about that. She oversees admissions. That's weird. That's really weird. Why does she oversee magnet school admissions? Is that it's like a specialty high school? That's a different question for a different day. Okay, so she oversees the Office of Professional Learning, and that's really all we have on this page so far. Now, who wants to try to find Nardos's social media? Can we find her Twitter account? Always, always, always find the Twitter accounts, the Instagram accounts, the Facebook accounts, whatever you can find their social media. Wait, what's alarming, Phil? What did you just find? What's going on? Well, one of my intrepid reporters or investigators is looking for a Twitter account. Let's look at this. The Office of Professional Learning. What's going on here? Oh, look at this. Da, da, da. Oh, look at that. We already found her Twitter. That's her. All right, hang on. Let me get this in. Let me get this in a screen where we can look at it. Now, who wants to guess why we look at the Twitters? Why? And look at that. She's got she, her, and her in her profile, so we know this is definitely a sane person. Ah, fuck! What the hell? Why might we look at her Twitter? Because these people don't think about things when they're tweeting. And they will oftentimes post exactly what we want to know on their Twitters. So you always find their Twitter. I don't care if you're not on Twitter, you don't like Twitter, any of these things. You have to do what is necessary to find out what's going on. If that means you create a sock Twitter account, I have about 86 sock Twitter accounts at this point. You create that fucking sock Twitter account and you go spy on them. It's just, they slip up. Exactly. They slip up. They will talk about casually what they're doing. Their guard is down on social media. Exactly. No one can repress their inner keyboard warrior. Thank you, sir. That is exactly correct. So now let's take a look at, and she's tweeted recently too. She's been tweeting today. The other thing we want to do when we're on Twitter is, guys, when you're looking into someone on Twitter, you never just look at their timeline, okay? You always want to go to the replies, because that's going to show you everything that they're tweeting. Let's take a look. Let's see. And we might find nothing. And again, guys, I don't play this game of like everything that this person does is bad. This person might be a very lovely person who is doing nothing questionable at all. We always need to leave space for that, all right? Let's just do a quick search. Sports. She likes sports. Okay. Oh, cute kid. Nothing wrong there. Let's see. Nothing yet. Sports. One time when we were looking into the Cambridge, Massachusetts school, let me give you an example of why this is important. When we were looking into the schools in Cambridge, Massachusetts, we found the school, the person that was the head of equity for the school tweeting about a professional development person they had just brought in. And from that tweet, based on like knowing who their professional development trainer was, we then searched her down and found videos of her on YouTube, basically saying she wants to abolish capitalism. This is the person that the schools were bringing in to train their teachers, someone who's on the internet, all over the internet, saying she wants to abolish capitalism. Well, you can do this, but we don't do this. We don't do this. We look right at their timelines, because you might not search for the right thing. So we take a quick look. It's not that hard. Thanksgiving. Oh, she's retweeting the White House. Obviously, we know this person has, yes, but listen, don't do this when you're looking at Twitter, because they might not be using those words. Just scroll down their timeline. We use the equities, and I appreciate why you're putting this in, because you saw me search for equity on their website, so I understand why you're doing it. But on their Twitter timelines, it's usually just better to scroll through the timeline and just see what you find. If you find a lot, you can do a search later, and that totally might be an appropriate thing. But when we're first just doing our overview, just go through and look at the replies. It's going to be a whole lot easier, I promise you. But what the good point you are making is that if you really get into this and you really do a deep dive, this could become really helpful later. So we know this person's a Democrat. We know she's got pronouns in her bio. Let's see. Oh. Reimagine education. Reimagine education. All right. That strikes me as odd. Oh, she's tweeting about knitting. God damn it. They always have to ruin knitting. They always have to ruin it. All right, I'm going to scroll a little bit more, but I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm not seeing... Oh, look at that baby. Oh my God, so cute. I'm not seeing anything overtly bad in this. Just because someone has different political views than us doesn't mean they're bad. Oh! Well, there's that. There's that. I wonder if she still wears a mask to school. Asian Educators Association mental health check-in. I think it's fair to say this person is definitely woke. Whether or not they're effectively implementing the woke ideology. Oh, no, that's early college. I read that wrong. All right. I'm satisfied at the moment that this person is probably not overtly offensive. Hang on. Let's just pull up Fairfax County Public School. Let's look at the school's Twitter too. The new Fairfax County Public Schools trust policy confirms that Fairfax County Public Schools will not collect or maintain information on citizenship or immigration status of students and families. That's interesting. Not quite sure what to do with that yet. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Oh, look at this. Trans and queer students are protected, affirmed, and loved in Fairfax County Public Schools, and she retweeted it. What's this? Who's Summer? Who's some? Oh, did we just find a teacher? Did we just find a teacher? This is where this starts to get really fun. This is where we start to go down the rabbit hole. I think we just found a teacher in the Fairfax County Public Schools. Does anyone want to look up Summer Johnson? That would be really great. Yes, I do have this. I do have this bot. I have this pulled up in another browser. I appreciate it. But Summer Johnson. Summer instructional transformation. Cider says, I went to that walkout, not at the school, but they all had them all over Virginia over Youngkin's transgender policy. Oh, wait. So you're telling me, Cider, you're telling me that this is a walkout to protest the governor of Virginia, and it's being retweeted by the chief equity officer of the Fairfax County Public Schools. Huh. Fascinating. Fascinating. Let's go and look at Summer's Twitter. Again, when we're looking at Twitter, replies. Always look at the replies. Look at this. We got she, her in the profile. We've got a fist in the profile. We got a gay pride flag in the profile. Let's... Oh, God. Oh, God. This is going to be one of those, isn't it? I think we may have found a true believer, guys. Cider says, yes, most kids just went to get out of class, as did I. Smart Cider. But they were supported by counselors and teachers were instructed. Okay. So students staged a walkout to protest the governor as supported by the chief equity officer of the Fairfax County Public Schools. And those students were mostly just doing it to get out of class. And they were supported by counselors and teachers who did not instruct the students not to walk out. I think we're getting the picture, Cider. I appreciate your attendance today. Let's see. This woman has, well, I don't want to misgender. This person has like Fairfax County Public Schools tagged in everything. Oh, what is this? I don't know what that is. Friday. School visits with my new Fairfax County Public Schools. What's SBTS? Cider, do you have any idea what SBTS stands for? Always fill my cup. Thanks for connecting. What is this? Is this like an instructional design thing? Does anyone know what this is? Oh, school-based technology specialist. Got it. School-based technology specialist. Okay, so this is innocent. False alarm, false alarm, false alarm. Okay, okay. Oh, so this person's in charge of this is the thing that the chief equity officer retweeted. So this person's an educational technology person. All right, probably not as scary. Those are all teachers doing professional development, and I want to know what's going on at those ed camps. All right. Let's take a look at the Fairfax County Public Schools Twitter. Because again, guys, sometimes the schools will tweet things that incriminate them without realizing that they're doing it. So since we're here, well, that's kind of fun. That's a wholesome activity. Dr. Reed is coming out to each community in a series of superintendent community conversations. What is this? All right. Just looks like she's going around talking to some people. That's not inherently bad. What is this? Transformational play pays off as impact of middle school recesses. So they implemented recess in middle school. All right, fine. She's probably woker than the last. Thank you for that, Cider. I gotta say, I'm actually really surprised we're not really finding anything incriminating on any of these things. Community conversations. And that's a good thing, guys. That's a good thing that we're not finding anything incriminating. All right. Well, do you want to bet where we might find something incriminating? I've got a bet. Let's take a jaunt into the wonderful world, just for fun, of Bing! LGBTQIA plus resources. All right. When we're doing a school investigation stream, there are a couple of different places where we are most likely to find things that are, well, concerning. We've already started going down one of the rabbit holes, which is the equity rabbit hole into the professional development rabbit hole. We haven't finished that yet. We're not done yet. I'm not saying we've totally cleared that. I'm just trying to give you guys, because we do have a limited amount of time on these streams, I'm trying to give you a broad overview of where you can look for stuff. And I have to say, thank you, Matt. I do appreciate it. Thank you for dropping by. One of the places where we can find some crazy, crazy stuff is in the LGBTQIA plus student resources and support. Because so critical race theory will often show up in the classroom, and it will often show up in the teacher professional development training. That's not good. But you know what might be even worse than that, or at least on the same level than that, is gender ideology. And normally we will find some of the craziest stuff happening in regards to the gender and sexuality alliances. If your school has a gender sexuality alliance, it's going to be called the GSA. It used to be called the Gay Straight Alliance. You need to look into that, because that's where they're going to like trick your kids to go to meetings where they think that they're going just to be good people and to support their gay classmates or their trans classmates or whatever the F. And then they're going to be tricked in to socially transitioning. This happens all the time. The gender sexuality alliances are like known for this. You've got to keep an eye on this stuff. So let's take a look and see what we find under the student resources page. In accordance with school board policy and Virginia law, Regulation 2603 provides gender expansive and transgender students with equitable, safe, and supportive school environments. Oh, look at that. They recognize Pride. They recognize LGBTQ History Month. Okay. All students have a right to privacy in the Fairfax County Public Schools or while participating in sponsored events. Any student who has a need or desire for increased privacy, regardless of underlying reason, shall be provided with reasonable, non-stigmatizing accommodations. Students shall not disclose private information about another student's reason for seeking privacy. Additionally, school personnel should not disclose information about a student's gender expansive or transgender status, legal name, or sex assigned at birth, including to other school personnel who do not need to know unless the student has authorized the disclosure. How much do you want to bet that the Fairfax County Public Schools don't notify parents if their kids are going by different names or genders in the school? How much do you want to bet that's happening? Oh, they're calling it a rainbow club now too, average person? My cousin told me the high school she goes to has a rainbow club. Told me everyone is confused on who they are now. Each students are called by their chosen name and pronouns, regardless of the name. Oh shit, look at this. This is across Virginia? I can't get into that. Sometimes we run into roadblocks and we can't get into like their private like back end thing. They don't notify parents. Exactly. That's what the walkout was over. Aha. So students are called by their chosen name and pronouns regardless of the name and gender recorded in the permanent pupil record. Right to privacy for all students provides non-stigmatizing accommodations for any students who need or desire increased privacy. Ensures students can use the locker rooms or restroom that aligns with their gender identity and forbids forcing them to use only a private area, single accommodation, or single-use facility. Gender expansive or transgender students across the access to it. They have a whole support team. Holy shit. Bot's got the regulation. Thank you, Bot. Hang on. So it's kind of basically what we're seeing. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it's basically what we're seeing on the screen here, I think. It looks basically like the same thing I'm reading right now. Maybe it like worded differently, but I appreciate that, Bot. Thank you. So they're giving gender expansive or transgender students access to a support team that will develop student-specific support plans for safe and equitable access to all schools. Okay. School teams the ability to offer staff training. Oh, I want to know what their staff training is. See, this is the thing I always go to. If you find that they have an official policy saying we're going to offer our staff training on gender diversity to better support gender expansive or trans students, that's going to be like ding, 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 ding. What are you training your staff on? Because again, anything they train the staff on is going to end up in the classroom. You have to make that assumption. If they are paying your tax dollars to provide the staff training on gender diversity to better support transgender or students or gender expansive students, then that is going to end up in the classroom at some point. 100%. Do-do-do. They have an ombudsman. Okay. I'm going to pull up their parent resources section. Oh, Glisten. Fucking Glisten. If you see Glisten anywhere on anything, you need to like start raising holy hell. Glisten is insane. Glisten is like the farthest of the far left, as progressive as you can get. Trevor Project. That's grooming. Do-do-do. All right. Let me just look in this real quick. Parent resource section. Free webinars. Oh, isn't that nice? I would like to go to a free webinar. What? The 5 languages of love of teenagers? Cider, you should get pictures of that. If you wanted to send me pictures of that, I wouldn't be upset. Cider's gonna be like our Unwoke Army general first class before he graduates from high school. You took them last year. Cider's gonna get the meritorious medal of achievement and service to the Unwoke Army. Neurodiversity. I bet we can register for these. We might be able to do some spy stream. Social emotional learning. Do they have any archives? Previous workshops and webinars on YouTube. How nice of them to provide us a link right to their YouTube channel. Yes, Cider can be an admiral. Cider, would you prefer to be an admiral or a general? Let me know about your preferred rank. Explore our YouTube channel. Oh, thank you. Okay. I need to make this point. This is a really important point. Okay, so what you're seeing here, this is the Parent Resource Center YouTube channel. Now, If I go back to just the general Fairfax County Public School, okay, so they've got their Fairfax County Public Schools YouTube channel. This is a really key point though, because the YouTube channels, the YouTube channels for schools are one of the best resources that you guys are going to have in terms of investigating the school, because you're going to get their public meetings, their school board meetings, their committee meetings. You're going to get any training and any crazy shit that they're doing. That's mostly that you're going to see video documentation of it on the YouTube channel. And then you just need to sit your ass down and watch. And I know that not everyone wants to watch school board meetings. I've got it. School board meetings are boring. But like, you need to sometimes do the boring thing if you're an adult. So sometimes you need to sit down and watch. So I always recommend, and I'm really glad we're getting into their YouTube channels now, because the YouTube channels are a treasure trove of information about what is going on in the schools that most people just don't bother to watch because it's boring. Luckily, on my channel, we have spent 2 years watching woke trainings for happy hour, and now we do socialism Saturdays. We know how to sit through boring. We can sit through boring to find those little meaty chunks, the golden nuggets that tell us exactly what's going on. Sometimes you need to suffer through the boring to find the information that you're looking for. It's just the way it goes. And Bot says they have 4 YouTube channels. So this is the point that I'm making. Don't just assume that there's only one YouTube channel. Don't assume that. Because we already know, and Bot, if you wanted to send me the other ones, that'd be pretty great. If you have them available, if it's easy, don't worry about it if it's not. But we know we have the Fairfax County Public Schools YouTube channel, and we now know they have a Parent Resource Center YouTube channel. Never assume they only have one. You have to look at all of them, okay? Let's look at the Parent Resource Center YouTube channel. Let's see what they've done. Bullying and harassment intervention, everything you need to know about opioids. I bet you all the money in my bank account, they're going to have some sort of gender bullshit somewhere. Wait for it. Meet the Author series, promoting digital wellness. Huh, that's an interesting one. For social emotional screener, what every family needs to know. Eating disorders, can't focus. Mental health challenges, parenting. I don't mind, by the way, that the school district is providing like parenting webinars. I actually think that's kind of cool. Yeah, Amanda, I do actually have it on the list at some point to look into colleges. The problem is I'm kind of overwhelmed with high schools right now. Like, I'm really overwhelmed with high schools. Like, I have a list of like 130 different high schools that people have sent in that they want us to research, and we're going to do them. It's just like it just takes time to do all this stuff, you know? It takes a lot. Do, do, do. Positive psychology, I don't mind that. Special ed. I am genuinely shocked that we're not seeing anything about gender. I really am. I am genuinely shocked. Everything you need to know about marijuana. Oh, that could be educational. Rewriting your parenting story, power struggles. Oh, thank you, Bot. This is why Bot is the chief investigative officer. Because Bot can find everything like really quickly. All right, I got that one pulled up, Bot. Thank you. Body safety. All right. Getting into a year ago. You know what I'm going to do? Just to, Cider, this makes me want to go back to my 8th grade sex lesson about gender they gave us during COVID. Yes, Cider, please let us put out that lesson about sex that you recorded in the 8th grade during COVID. Now, thing about YouTube channels is they have this little search feature. Oh, they have a playlist on social emotional wellness lessons. Oh, great. This is going to search within the YouTube channel. So let's just see. Gender. ADHD, does gender matter? 10 non-negotiable rules for raising a teenager. Eating disorders, bullying and harassment. Wow, I am genuinely shocked. I am genuinely shocked. They don't have anything. Holy shit. Let's just look at race. Genuinely shocked. Emotional regulations. Da da da. There it is. Restorative justice. Restorative justice is basically like a struggle session. That's what that means. Cider is a helpful resource. That's why Cider is the admiral of the Unwoke Army. Admiral Cider, the first admiral. I am genuinely shocked. They don't have anything. Huh. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I used to be scared of Carlin that I would send something that I wasn't sure if it was innocent or not, so I just kept them on my laptop. Well, now we know, Cider. All right, let's go back to Fairfax County Public Schools, and I just want to do a search on here. What do they have about gender on here? Ding. That's from, oh, look at this. FSP School Board Work Session has something about gender. Something. They're still wearing masks at the school board meeting? God. Why are they still wearing masks at the school board meeting? All right. What I really want to do is I want to search this by like date. Let's see. I just want to look at a few of these videos and see what was going on in these videos real quick. Because there's something related to gender going on. I just don't know what it is. All right. Luckily, they have this here description. Family life. No, that looks fine. That doesn't look bad. Let me see. Immigrant heritage much, the vote, recognition, charter school, Juneteenth. All right. I don't know any of these things. I don't know any of these things. All right. That's fine. All right. So I want to do another search on this one. I want to search for race. Oh, here we go. 2020 Mental Health and Wellness Conference talking to kids about race and racism. Dun, dun, dun. Who wants to watch their 2020 conference talking to kids about race and racism? At least a little bit. Let's see. Talking to kids about race and racism, promoting positive socioeconomic development. Child-friendly definitions, 2 ways to talk to kids about race, reflection questions, how and why does this happen, media presentation, talking to kids about race, race-conscious things. Let me put a poll in the chat. Should we watch the webinar? And it's about how to talk to kids about race. Poll is in the chat now. This is going to be from a couple years ago, guys. Just to warn everyone, this is a couple years ago. So this could be old. I don't know if they're still doing this stuff. But it would beg the question of like, Are they still doing it? I don't know. We'll see. Well, you guys vote on that. I'm just going to pop back over to our LGBTQ plus resource pages for a second. See. Well, this is what I'm thinking, Branson. This is what I'm thinking. It's a little bit older. It is a little bit older, but I'm not finding anything else right now is the thing. Thank you, Cider. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes left to vote. Let me just look up gender, sexuality. So this is around the walkout. What? Hang on. What is this? Excuse me, what? Who the fuck are you? This is such a shallow political identity. What are you talking about? Explain yourself, sir. What exactly is shallow about what we're doing right now? What does that even mean? Let's see if our friend here, just for fun, let's see if our friend here. It's like the notion that the left has sometimes gone too far is the only thing that's important to you. You built an entire political ideology about that one idea. So cringe. Bro, right now, we are literally just looking at a public school website. This isn't a political ideology. This is a public school website. I am literally just showing people what's on a public school website. Phil timed him out. Oh, now he can't respond. Phil, I was going to play with him. People like that are just like I'm literally like it is mind-boggling to me. And by the way, guys, this is why I'm doing the Schools Exposed program, because people get so fucking persnickety. All we're doing right now is looking at a public school website, and we may have found a thing, the review committee recommendation that genderqueer apparently is acceptable. The committee identified reasons for retaining access to the book in libraries serving high school students. A committee made up of high school administrators, 2 high school librarians, 2 parents of high school students, 2 high school students, and a specialist from the Office of Equity and Family Engagement, which this tells us they have an Office of Equity and Family Engagement, met on October 26, 2021 to review a request for reconsideration of the book Genderqueer for inclusion in the Fairfax County Public Schools library. Oh, Carlin, if you want to go back to the 8th grade equity lesson I recorded in English class, that might be something of use to those who haven't seen it, specifically the burger analogy. I don't want to play that right now, Cider. I appreciate that. I've played it enough times before. But if people want to see what I'm talking about, this was Cider's 8th grade class. This is why Cider is a perpetual king of the chat and an admiral. He recorded his 8th grade class for us and sent it to me. It is on my channel. If you just search 8th grade class on my channel, it's going to come right up and you can see it. Each member read the book in its entirety and reviewed the submitted reconsideration packets. After deliberate and I want to see the discussions they had about genderqueer. The committee related the following merits of the book as a work of literature. The book is well-written, scientifically based narrative about one person's journey with gender ideology that contains information and perspective that is not widely represented. Do they have this somewhere? I want to know what this deliberation said. See, and this is another point I want to make. Again, Fairfax County, Virginia has been one of the epicenters of parent activism against critical race theory in schools. They are at every school board meeting. They are on Fox News all the time. Where are what do they call themselves? Like the mama bears? We aren't going to let this shit into our schools. We are the mama bears. We're at every school board meeting. We're speaking up all the time. They do all these, the people that are doing this raise millions of dollars going to these school board meetings. And guess what? Genderqueer is still in the fucking library. How many millions of dollars was dedicated to trying to get this book out of the library in Virginia or Fairfax County, Virginia schools? It is still in the fucking library today. But if you watch Fox News and you just look at your conservative influencers, you would think these are the most successful parents in the country. Are they? Are they? Because it's still in the library today. I really want everyone to consider this. Just because people are going and making speeches at a school board meeting, just because people are on Twitter talking about how much all this stuff sucks and sharing pictures of the book, just because they're having meetings, just because they have lots of money, it doesn't mean they are actually getting anything done. And that's really what I want to sink into the heads of parents. You have to look at this stuff. You have to dig into it because I guarantee you, if I asked on Twitter right now, is genderqueer still in the schools in Fairfax County, Virginia, a lot of people would say no. Because they've seen the school board meetings and they saw Matt Walsh go to a school board meeting. Remember, Matt Walsh made a big show of renting an apartment in Fairfax County, Virginia, just so he could go and speak at that school board meeting so that he could have a video that would go on the internet of Matt Walsh speaking at a school board meeting. Matt Walsh, what is a woman? Gender advocate, whatever the hell. And genderqueer is still in the schools in Fairfax County, Virginia. And it is literally on their website that it is still in the schools. So even with all that money and all that activism and all that attention and all those videos coming out of those school board meetings, it is still in the schools. But you wouldn't think that if you listen to the conservative talking heads who are trying to make it seem like they are accomplishing more than they are. You have got to get your kids out of the public schools if you can. You really do, guys. You've got to get your kids out of the public schools. Because even all the activism and all the money is not changing things at a fast enough rate. And one of the reasons I want to teach parents how to look into this stuff is I want you to know the difference between things that are actually happening in schools and what the media is saying. Because these are two very different things. You need to be able to go onto their websites to interact with their administrators, to read their documents, to understand what's going on. You need to be able to do all those things. Adam just went live because this is Adam's showtime, guys. If you want to go watch Adam, go watch Adam. But this is Adam's regular showtime, so of course he went live. Of course he did. I'm not like offended by that. We're just doing something else today. We're not having a Tim Pool date today, okay, guys? We're not doing it. But for real, guys, you all need to look into your own schools yourself to really know what's going on. Don't trust anyone to tell you what's going on. Learn to look into it for yourself. You can use these videos I do with the Schools and Exposed Investigation streams if you want some guidance about what is going on. All right, let me look at the poll. It seems that 73% of you would like to watch that webinar. Okay, we can watch a little bit of it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I just need to find it. There it is. Now, this is from 2 years ago. This is on the Fairfax County Public Schools website, their YouTube channel. It's in the public. I am going to react. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. I am going to react to Tim Pool's sister's video, but I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to do it at midnight tonight. So, hang on. Hang on. Let me show you. All right, guys. So here is our schedule for today. Right now, we're doing schools exposed investigation. Okay, this is day 2 of this investigation. We might do some more. Later at 9:30 tonight, we are doing nothing remotely controversial. That's my regular weekly show with Joshua. And then at midnight, for a special midnight movie, also because I have no other time today in which to do this, I will be doing a live reaction to Tim Pool's sister's video. Just in case you weren't here at the beginning, I spent about an hour on the phone with Lisa today, Lisa Pool. I spent about an hour on the phone with her talking about this situation, and she wants me to show the video and she wants me to share the video, and I'm happy to do that. Lisa is honestly, like, I really feel for her, man. I really, really do. I've seen people say already that Lisa is doing what she's doing for money. That is not the truth. Lisa is not doing it for the money. Lisa could have been taken care of by her brother. She's not doing it for the money. She's doing it because she believes her brother has changed a lot from the person that she knew, and she wants her brother back. She really does seem like a very nice woman to me. She really does. Probably one of the more sane people in this entire situation, if I'm honest about it. And I haven't watched her video yet because I've just been busy doing other things, and I spent an hour on the phone with her earlier. And so I am going to be watching it at midnight tonight, so you can return to the channel for that, and we'll go back to Tim Pool drama. But for right now, we're going to do something else. Oh, our friend is back. Our friend is back. I wasn't just talking about what you're doing right now. You're talking about your content generally shallow. We get it. The gender stuff is annoying. BLM isn't right about everything. Boring. Then don't watch, bro. Literally, no one is forcing you to watch my content. Are you an adult? Are you a big boy? Are you capable of clicking on content that you would prefer to watch? Or do you just want to complain and whine when I show content that you don't like? Let's all put on our big boy pants and not engage with content that we don't like. Sometimes I like playing with people in my chat. That guy's going to get banned eventually, mark my words. But for right now, we're going to go in and watch our other webinar. Here it is. I need to share it a different screen. All right, I might skip around a little bit. We're going to have to see how it goes. Yeah, YouTube has several lifetimes worth of content. If you don't like this content, go watch something else. It's not that hard. Really not that hard. All right, guys, let's it is American Legend. You are absolutely correct about that. It is a violation of the channel policy, but sometimes I like to toy with people. We'll see if that person comes back and keeps whining. They'll get banned eventually. All right, let's see what this is about. Let me go full screen. Boom.
Joining us today at the 2020 Virtual Fairfax County Public Schools Mental Health and Wellness Conference and Inova Act on Addiction Summit. This webinar series would not be possible without the generous support of Joan and Russell Hitt.
Don't care.
And public education.
Don't care.
With today, or some kind of best practices in terms of strategies of broaching these conversations with children and adolescents and in ways that are developmentally appropriate. And so I'm hoping that you would be able to kind of take those away. Again, what we're trying to do today is condense what's normally a 2 and 2.5 hour presentation down into 45 minutes. And so I hope that once the resources become available to participants, you'll be able to review the slides and the resources at your own pace, a pace that's more conducive to your own style of learning. And so again, thank you for being here this evening. I'm going to jump straight into, again, our presentation. It's really hard to have conversations about race and racism without first laying out definitions. And so what you see here are some child-friendly definitions,
it does, doesn't
the
it?
ones that I use with my own kids who are elementary age, but I also use these exact same definitions with middle school students, high school students, as well as adults, right? And so anytime you hear me today talk about prejudice,
look at this.
Really, one of the things I'm talking about is
this is actually good. Well, this is from 2 years ago. They may have updated it, but look at this. They actually have the proper definition of racism. Isn't that's actually a good thing. They actually have the proper definition of racism, treating people unfairly or discriminating against people on the basis of their race. How nice that a school actually has the proper definition. Prejudice, believing negative or bad things about someone who is different from you without proof. Also, the correct definition. I have no problem with any of this so far. Sometimes, guys, we watch stuff we think is going to be woke and it turns out to not be woke. And isn't that nice when it happens? We don't want to be outraged just for the sheer sake of outrage.
Even negative or bad things about someone who's different from you without proof, right? So again, child-friendly definitions, stereotypes, idea about a group of people, which could be based on their skin color, right? Or it could be based on other qualities, such as the gender or their religious affiliation, right? Or even sexual orientation. And so again, that's what would be stereotypes. Discrimination would be to unfairly treat a person or a group of people because of who they are, because they're different from you. So treating them unfairly because they are different from you. When we're talking about race, we're using a very basic notion. We're really talking about skin color of a person. So anytime we're talking about race today, we're talking about just the skin color of a person, right? Which is different from ethnicity and culture and some other terminology, right? And so again, just to make sure that it's developmentally appropriate, every time we talk about race, I'm talking about skin color. When we're talking about racism, we're talking about treating people unfairly because of their race or because of their skin color, right? And there's really two ways that we can actually have a conversation about race. And one of the things that I didn't mention that I probably should have mentioned at the beginning is that you may have a lot of questions. Please feel free to throw those into the Q&A box. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to try to save time, I believe 10 minutes or so to address your questions. So maybe you came into the presentation with burning questions. Don't wait to the end. Feel free to throw those into the chat box now, and we'll get started with that. So I always say that there's two different ways of talking about race, right? Which is why the presentation is talking about race and both racism. One is about the physicality of race, right? This could be the skin color, physical features, or even hair texture. So that's one way of actually having a conversation with children and adolescents. It's about, again, just talking about race. And it's very again, a developmentally appropriate stance. The other one is the social experiences as it relates to races. So what are the experiences of people based on their race, their physical skin color or physical features or what have you. So again, one looks at physicality, the other one looks at it more socially, right? What are the social norms, attitudes, and beliefs and behaviors that are based on race, right? And so again, just two different ways of actually talking about it. I think it's really hard to talk about race without talking about racism, and it's really hard to talk about racism without actually talking about race, if that makes sense. And so sometimes I like to distinguish that when talking to my own kids or even middle school or high school kids for that matter. A few things that is always important to think about is that we as parents, as caregivers, or even as teachers, or those who actually work with young kids, whether they're children or adolescents or even young adults, that we have to kind of do some of the self-reflecting work ourselves when having these conversations. And so I always like to start these presentations with some self-reflection in terms of thinking about the first time you were aware of your race or your racial identity. And not only the first time you were aware of your race or racial identity, but what were some of the messages that were communicated to you by your parents or by your caregivers as it relates to your race, right? Or did you have these conversations at all, right? And so reflecting upon our own experiences with our own racial identity and how we were kind of socialized to understand different aspects of race would really help think about identifying potential barriers that might trip you up when having these conversations. So there may be some things that your parents or caregivers or teachers did that was really, really influential and really positive and your understanding of race and yourself as a racial being. There may be some other things that were not so beneficial. And so those are the things that we want to really stay away from moving forward. And so again, I'm always interested in getting what was your experience like and how comfortable are you with having those conversations as it relates to both race and racism, right? So now let's get into it in terms of children. And so one of the questions that I get a lot is, so kids are oftentimes too young to talk about race. And if we actually start to have these conversations, what
Oh
we're going to
God,
do is
no,
actually implant
no, don't
racist
do
ideas
this.
or ideas about differences being bad into our kids'
That's
head,
okay,
right?
Sin.
And
Thank
one of the
you.
things that we see when we look at social science is that actually is not the case at all. Actually, we're kind of hardwired.
This is the chart that they're going to say that kids start to become racist at 3 years old. That's what this is.
To actually recognize skin colors, even as early as toddlers, right? One of the things that you might see on the slide, or you might not see, is that when we look at social science and what they actually show in terms of ability to actually recognize race, that we see the kids as old as 3 to 4 months have the ability to actually recognize race and distinguish based on those racial recognitions. And so using eye scan technology, we see the kids actually start to distinguish race pretty early. And not only are they distinguishing it, but they're actually behaving differently towards those individuals who most oftentimes look more like
Well,
them.
this
So we
is
see that
this is on
at
the
very young
Fairfax
age,
County
that
Virginia Schools
toddlers or even
YouTube
kids
page.
actually are starting to not only recognize race, but
So
again,
this
when you
was
start to
for like
actually transition
parents.
into the toddler idea, the toddler age, they're also developing ideas about race, right? In terms of superiority or inferiority. Again, by the time they start primary school, these ideas are actually put into place. And so when you're having these conversations with your children, especially your young children, you're not actually implanting ideas in their head. Basically, what you're doing is actually seeing what ideas already exist. Again, because kids make sense of the world and they want to make sense of the
Did
world.
you just hear that? You're not putting these ideas in kids. You're not teaching your kids to be racist. Your kids are already racist and you're just exploring how racist they already are. That's basically what they just said.
World is actually around them. And again, they may be subject to ideas about racial stereotypes by their classmates, by the preschool teachers, or by middle or high school or elementary school teachers, or even parents, right? And so again, we see the initial awareness of race begins at a little bit earlier than 6 months, and that children of color, usually younger than 5, show evidence of actually being aware of that and negatively impacted by prejudice and stereotypes about their racial groups. And so again, we see that as young as 5, the children are not only aware, but negatively impacted by the prejudices and stereotypes about their racial groups. And so again, children begin to actually express and develop racial preferences and biases that reflect societal values of whites over blacks per se, or people or children of color by preschool age, right? So again, we're talking about 2 or 3 years old. We're not even talking about adolescents or even young adults at this time. So again, it's important to think about that. Again, we see that happens throughout the lifespan. And one of the things you start to see is that once kids get to that 13 to 16 age range, that their ideas about racial groups and the differences about those racial groups, and oftentimes the stereotypes that they actually associate with those racial groups, starts to actually wing off. And for some, we'll say that, you know what, that's actually a really good sign. It means that kids are actually learning and they're actually becoming more tolerant. But what we see is actually the winging off is not necessarily because kids are actually more tolerant or teens are more tolerant. We see that kids start to wing away from those negative racial associations and stereotypes that they have about others and about themselves based on race, is because they start to actually learn the social norms of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate in terms of talking about race. And again, we're going to show a video a little bit shortly to kind of emphasize that, right? And so again, we see that it's very important to talk about race because kids are actually, again, creating these racial narratives about others. And again, we want to actually help them to be able to kind of think more about race in ways that are critical, as well as ways that are more appropriate. And so again, when we really think about how or why this actually happens, there's a lot of different reasons. But one of the reasons is that kids are actually just motivated to learn, right? And to kind of conform to broader culture and social norms that, again, oftentimes are reflected in society. And so one of the basic premises within this presentation, which we won't really get a chance to really go into, is that you have to believe that we live in a racialized society, right? And not just a racialized society, but we
You
live in a
have to
society
believe
where
we
a
live in a
racial
racialized
caste system, a
society.
racial hierarchy actually exists, where those individuals who self-identify or maybe
Did you
perceived
guys
as
just
white
hear
are
what
at
he
the
just
top
said?
of the
And the question I would ask, okay, so this presentation was a couple years ago. Okay, fine. But does this person still work for the school district today? He just said that you have to believe that we live in a racialized society and you have to believe that a racial hierarchy exists. That's foundational to buying into all of this stuff. Really think about what that means for a second. Really think about it. When a school system is saying you have to believe that we live in a racialized society and you have to believe that a racial hierarchy exists, they're putting that expectation on the parents in their community.
racial hierarchy, and those who are black are at the bottom, and those who are self-identify as people of color are kind of in between. And so there's a racial hierarchy that actually exists, and
He
that's a
just
really
provided
important premise to
the
actually
woke oppression
really
hierarchy or
reflect
progressive
upon because it
stack.
really gives way to why we actually need to have these conversations. And one of the things that you'll see throughout the presentations is that oftentimes we talk about kind of like this white-black dichotomy. That it's not to say that race is only actually assigned to just white and black, but it's to say that when we actually look at the research, most of the research actually looks at race in those terms. And so I wanted to report what research actually says versus kind of just my opinions, right? So again, children are actually collecting information about the world to kind of gauge what are social norms. And again, it helps to actually construct their realities and their beliefs, right? And so again, kids and adolescents are oftentimes, they're still working out their cognitive muscles, right? And so again, those cognitive shortcuts and structures, again, they're still developing. So kids aren't able to actually really make sense of the world. And so they're looking at, again, social cues, what they see in the media, what they see in their textbooks, what they see on cartoon shows. Again, kids are actually pretty aware. And we'll show, again, another clip of that as well. And again, we see that, again, in a society that's built on a racial hierarchy, that oftentimes there's positive associations and characteristics associated with those who are considered white, and associations and characteristics and stereotypes that are more negative for, again, those who are considered people of color. And this is, again, kids actually learning from just the social world that we live in. So again, for them, it's like a cognitive puzzle where they're just trying to figure out and make sense of some of the rules. And so that's really important. And one of the things that you see here as an example is the ways in which we unintentionally socialize kids. Like, for instance, when we walk into a room, even if it's a classroom, we say, "Good morning, boys and girls." Again, we're sending a subtle message of which parts of their identity are actually important. And in that example, their gender. And so again, where we're just asking or just actually making a really reflective statement, again, there's subtle messages behind it. The kids are actually picking up and making connections, even though they're the wrong connections at times, right? And so again, importance of actually really having those conversations as it relates to talking to kids about race and racism. Let me move into our next slide. And again, I think we kind of already summed this up, that although kids are actually attaching meaning to race without adults directly telling them to do so, right? And so kids are aware of race, they're trying to make meaning of race, and just because they're not having the conversation with you, just because your teens aren't having conversations with you, doesn't mean that the conversations aren't actually being had, right? Oftentimes they're underground, right? And so we see them among other kids. And so I always think of it like this: who would I rather educate my kids about race and their racial identity, me or other kids, right? And again, I'm not sure where those kids are actually pulling their information from. So again, there's no accident in terms of how they're actually making sense of the world. Kids are really good, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, at picking up on our blind spots as adults. And so they're studying us, and so they're really good with kind of decoding information about who mom and dad are uncomfortable with, right? Or who the teacher seems to call on more than not, right? And why is that, right? And must it be because of their race? And again, kids are actually just starting to make meaning of the world. So it's important that we're helping them through that process in terms of actually making those meanings. And so I'm going to pause just for a second and play a video. Hopefully the sound goes well, just to kind of show you what that actually looks like. And let me cue that up for you. This is a video that you can find on YouTube. It's like a 3 to 4 part study. I really strongly encourage you to review it. It's based on CNN. Let me play that for you.
Well, let's see. Oh, the fucking doll study. I know what
Henderson
this is.
Cooper,
I know what this
AC
is.
360, CNN weeknights 10 Eastern.
There are lots of different colors for skin.
I have questions for you about these pictures of different children.
After I read the question, I want you to
Point to the picture that fits the story.
Are children colorblind in America?
show me the smart child.
Show me the mean child.
Can you show me the dumb child?
Show me the nice child.
Is bias measurable even at an early age?
Well,
Why is she the bad child?
Because she's black.
And why is he the ugly child?
Because he looked like he white.
Why is he
That's-
the dumb child?
that's because they're picking. This is so stupid. This is not about race. They are picking the child that either looks like them if the attributes are good. If it's a smart child, they're going to pick the one that looks like them. If they're asking for a dumb child, they're going to pick the one that doesn't look like them. If they're asking for a beautiful child, they're going to pick the one that looks like them. If they're asking for an ugly child, they're going to pick the one that doesn't look like them. It's a reflection of them. This is not about race. It is saying people like me are good. If you're and on the flip side of that, I'm not going to say that I am dumb. I'm not going to say that I'm ugly. So I have to say that the opposite of me is dumb or ugly. This is not about race. They're thinking about it in relation to themselves.
Child.
Because she has dark brown skin.
Why is she the bad child?
Because she makes fun of everybody else's skin color.
How much do kids learn from what they see and hear from adults?
Show me the child who has the skin color most adults like.
And show me the child who has a skin color most adults don't like.
These are questions that we, along with CNN's Soledad O'Brien and a team of psychologists hired by CNN, spent months investigating through tests, interviews with children and their parents. But they're questions that have been asked for decades. The first doll study ignited controversy in the 1940s when psychologists Kenneth and Mamie Clark pioneered studies in the effects of segregation in schools by asking African American kids to choose between black and white dolls. The so-called doll test found black kids overwhelmingly preferred white over black. Those results were at the center of the landmark 1954 Supreme Court case, Brown versus the Board of Education, that desegregated American schools. Now, with the first African-American president and nearly 60 years after segregation was overturned, we wondered, where are we today? How do kids see differences in race? What we discovered might shock you, but first, how we got there.
Skin color, child skin color estimate.
Okay, yeah.
We asked renowned child psychologist and University of Chicago researcher Dr. Margaret Beal Spencer to design a pilot study for CNN and analyze the results.
Our children are always near us, because we're a society. And what we put out there, kids report back. You ask the question, they'll give you the answer.
Spencer's team tested more than 130 kids in 8 schools with very different racial and economic demographics. Half of the schools were in the north, half in the south. Oh, nicely done. While the country is much more diverse today than in the 1940s, the children in this project are from 2 age groups and 2 races, white and black, to better allow comparison to the original doll study. 4- and 5-year-old children were asked a series of questions about these images. 9- and 10-year-old children were asked questions about the same images, as well as this color bar chart. The tests led us to 3 major findings. First, white children as a whole responded with a high rate of what researchers call white bias, identifying the color of their own skin with positive attributes and darker skin with negative
Exactly.
attributes.
Show me the dumb child.
Dumb child.
Okay, why is she the dumb child?
Because she has black skin.
Show me the mean child. Why is he the mean child?
Because she's brown.
They're
Show
giving
me
them
the bad child. Why is he the bad child?
they're giving them no other basis by which to make this judgment. This study does not measure what they think it does. They are giving them no. How else could they possibly make this judgment than to say the person that doesn't look like me is the bad child, the person that doesn't look like me is the dumb child? On what other basis could they say that? Are they really expecting that kids are going to say the person that looks like me is bad and dumb? That makes absolutely no sense at all.
Because she is black.
Okay. Show me the ugly child. Why is he the ugly child?
Because she's brown, black.
Show me the child who has the skin color most adults like.
Him.
And show me the child who has the skin color most adults don't like.
Not him.
Show me the child who has the skin color most children like.
Her.
Show me the child who has the skin color most children don't like.
Not her. I mean, my God.
Show me the child who has the skin color most girls want.
Her.
Show me the child who has the skin color most girls don't want.
Not her.
The questions that got overwhelmingly white biased answers?
Show me the dumb child.
Not her.
About 76% of the younger white children pointed to the 2 darkest skin tones.
Right, because it's not
Show
them.
me the mean child.
About 66% of the younger white children pointed to the 2 darkest skin tones.
Show me the child who has the skin color most children don't like.
Again, about 66% of the younger white children pointed to the 2 darkest skin tones.
Show me the bad child.
More than 59% of the older white children pointed to the 2 darkest skin tones. But some white children did have more race-neutral responses.
So could you show me the good-looking child?
All of
So
them.
what are you thinking? I know you pointed to them all, but tell me what you're thinking.
I'm thinking that I do not care if they are black, white, mixed, or any kind of race. I think that it matters who they really are.
What that measures is rebellion against authority. That doesn't mean that that child is is not race conscious, I guess. That's not what this is measuring. What that is measuring is her propensity to question authority. She questioned that's a little fucking rebel right there. That's a person that's a child that says, "I'm not going to play by your rules." Mark my words, that kid's gonna be a rebel later in her life. I bet if we followed up with her right now, she's like not buying into anything the teachers are telling her. Because that's what that's measuring. It has nothing to do with race at all.
All right, so I'm going to stop the video there. And one of the things, oftentimes, the reactions that I get when stopping that video is that
Yes.
people are oftentimes thinking
She's
about,
smarter than the
you know,
test.
no, not my child. That couldn't be my child, right? Or it couldn't be my student. Or
Exactly,
it couldn't be
Scott.
my
I agree.
grandchild, right? But the reality is that the parents of those kids who are actually showing white bias or white favoritism, again, we would consider those actually to be normal parents. These aren't parents that were picked somehow in the study because they had adverse views of black individuals. And again, we're talking about what kids actually learn from their environment. One of the things you don't see in the study, because there is a part 2 of the study, is that when you ask the black kids the same question, that actually close to 45 to 50% actually answered the same way. Show me the dumb child. And even your black children would actually point into the darkest skinned child. Show me the child whose skin colors most adults like, that your teachers like. Most of the students who are actually black and brown will point to the white skin color. So we see some of these internalized signs of, again, they're learning how in society we construct realities around race. Again, remember at the very beginning of the presentation, I talked about the premise is based in we live in a racialized society where there is a hierarchy that, again, kids are actually picking up on. And so there's another video that talks about, that looks at it from the
kids. Before you watch this
the
episode
perspective
of Nightly
of,
News
let me
Kids
close that.
Edition, please let
This perspective of children of color, which I'll allow you to actually review that on your own time, right? And so that video is called How to Talk with Kids About Race and Racism in America from the Nightly News. And again, it gives you just another insight into what those conversations look like with kids from different backgrounds, right? And for the sake of our time for a presentation, I don't want to take up too much time with the video piece of it, but I do want to get into kind of the social emotional aspect of
Yes,
it. So
get
let me
into
get a
social
second
emotional learning, please. That would
queue
be
up
very valuable.
the next slide. All right. And so as we think about like the positive pro-social emotional outcomes of actually having these conversations, what we see is that when you're having conversations with children and teenagers and even adolescents, what we oftentimes see in the social science research, and those articles are at the very bottom of your slide to really support that, that there's actually a decrease in prejudice, stereotypes, and bias against other groups. We actually can see that, right? Children who actually are having these conversations with their parents are more likely to see discrimination when it occurs, and again, have an increased desire to actually confront it, right? Again, when we think about like social emotional learning, we think about conflict resolution skills. Why are we teaching conflict
Oh,
resolution if we're not actually
Jeremy
applying
giving
it?
us some facts here about our speaker, Joseph. Do not look into Dr. Joseph Williams. He pushes anti-racism, keynote speaker at the Virginia State Counselors Association. Jeremy, I'm really glad you brought this up because like I said earlier, I said I wanted to know where is Joseph Williams now? What else has he been doing? So one of the things that I would do if I were a parent in the Fairfax County, Virginia schools is I would follow the rabbit hole of Dr. Joseph Williams. Go watch every single video that Dr. Joseph Williams has done on YouTube. Go watch them. Go see what he's saying because he's obviously being brought in to do training on some level in the Fairfax County Public Schools. Are the things that he's saying, are there any videos floating around out there of Dr. Joseph Williams talking about how he wants to abolish capitalism? That is literally something that we found in the schools in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Not with him, with another woman. But that's what I would do. Great spot, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
To current conflicts, right? And think about the racial pandemic that we're currently experiencing.
The racial pandemic?
Right? Kids are actually who have these conversations
The
with their
racial
parents. I'll give you a
pandemic?
spoiler alert.
Wow.
These aren't parents who are actually perfect at having these conversations. These are parents who actually make plenty of mistakes. self-included, right? But even having the conversation, we see that those kids who actually report having those conversations are actually more equipped with the words and strategies to deal with experiences of discrimination and racism. And so when we think about our Black and Brown and Indigenous little boys and girls, again, having these conversations oftentimes serves as a proactive way of actually helping them to actually navigate and anticipate those encounters and to be able to actually confront it. And so some would say, again, if I have this conversation with my child, won't I actually increase their anxiety? Won't I increase kind of their fear of being discriminated against? And what we see is that that actually doesn't happen. It's similar to when you have conversations with kids about stranger danger, right? When you have those conversations, oftentimes kids don't develop a level of anxiety for the most part that prevents them from going out and acting in their daily interactions outside of the house, right? Because they're fearful that someone's going to snatch them. No, you're actually having that conversation as a preventative tool to help them to be aware and to stay alert. And when something actually happens, to actually respond in ways that are appropriate. It's the same thing when we're having these conversations about race. We're really trying to educate kids and prepare them to have these conversations because, again, that is a reality. We see that there's actually also increases in positive self-esteem and sense of identity. So we talked about the internalization that happens with children of color as relates to their understanding of race. The more parents, the more caregivers and teachers are actually having these conversations, the more their racial identity and positive self-esteem starts to actually become more identified. Again, and exploring or displaying more positive identity towards their own racial group and other groups. So again, we also see increases in group intolerance. They're more comfortable around questions as it relates to race and having those conversations. So there's a lot of benefits. A lot of them actually hit that social emotional kind of developmental check marks in terms of, again, these conversations have actually been steeped in research to show to actually be very proven, right? There's a few common mistakes that I want to kind of just highlight before we get into some strategy, because I would assume that for most of you, you actually logged into this presentation because you're interested in actual strategies. And again, I want to make sure
Yes,
that we
give
spend
us
time to actually
strategies,
address it.
Joseph.
But it's really important for me to kind of lay the groundwork that, you know what, our kids are terribly biased, even if we don't believe that we are, right? And kids are picking up things, they're discriminating in their play, they're assigning roles and plays based on
Listen to
race,
him
that
calling
these things
kids
are actually
racist.
happening whether we want to
Kids are
admit it or not,
terribly
right?
biased.
Whether we have these conversations or not,
It's
kids are
not
actually
their
learning
fault,
about
but they're
race, they're
terribly
making
biased.
associations about race, they're oftentimes assigning the stereotypes that they're learning about race with individual people. And again, these things are actually happening, whether we like to admit it or not. And so we need to have these conversations. And again, I believe that for most of you on this call, you probably believe that that is actually a true statement, and that's why you're here. And so I really want to applaud you for that. But recognizing that it's just only one step, right? We have to take the next step and think about how do we have these very awkward and uncomfortable conversations, right? Which for some of us, maybe our parents didn't have these conversations with us, and so we're not really sure how to actually address it. And I'm hoping that this workshop, this presentation, won't be the last time that you grapple with these issues and you actually think about the resources that might assist you in actually doing that. A few common mistakes that we oftentimes see, or that I oftentimes see, is really adopting a colorblind perspective. And again, there's a lot of harmful impacts of actually adopting a colorblind approach to raising your kid.
They are literally saying that if you adopt a colorblind approach to raising your child, you are harming your child. I just want to rewind just that one little bit, and I want you guys to hear it again.
Won't be the last time that you grapple with these issues and you actually think about the resources that might assist you in actually doing that. A few common mistakes that we oftentimes see, or that I oftentimes see, is really adopting a colorblind perspective. And again, there's a lot of harmful impacts of actually adopting a colorblind approach to raising your kids, where you may say that, you know what, I don't see color. I don't raise my kids to see color. Or maybe you're a teacher and you said, you know what, in my classroom, I don't see color.
Hang on. I'm gonna clip this real quick, guys. I'm sorry. I gotta clip this. I gotta do it. Sorry.
Resources that might assist you in actually doing that. A few common mistakes that we oftentimes see, or that I oftentimes see, is really adopting a colorblind perspective. And again, there's a lot of harmful impacts of actually adopting the colorblind approach to raising your kids, where you may say that, you know what, I don't see color. I don't raise my kids to see color. Or maybe you're a teacher and you say, you know what, in my classroom, I don't see color. I just see one race, the human race. And while I get, and I understand where you're coming from with that, it actually has a reverse effect that may be unintentional, right? But again, one of the things that you're actually communicating in a way that may be subtle is that, again, aspects of a person's experiences aren't that important. And the reality is that race shapes how we interact with others and how others interact with us, how we interact with the world and our environment, and how the world actually interacts with us. And so again, when we take that colorblind approach, children may never talk about the issue when acts of exclusion, rejection, or discrimination occur based on race, right? Children may get conflicted messages, right? That, again, I shouldn't do something about it, but we never talk about it. Or, you know what, race is actually a good thing.
All right,
And
I
we all
got it.
have a race that's unique to us, but we never really actually talk about it. So why is that? Why is it taboo? So again, they're getting those conflicting messages. And again, when parents don't talk about race or say that race doesn't matter, but actually children notice our social networks, right? And that they're not diverse, right? Or lack thereof, right? Students notice that when parents actually tense up around certain groups of people, again, the kids are actually, very scarily, right? They're really good at actually picking up our biases, right? And our blind spots. And so kids are actually addressing that. And we're gonna get into that. Parents talk about race or say that race doesn't matter, but kids are actually noticing social networks is important. When there's inconsistency between words and actions, we got into that just a little bit. And again, when we actually shut down, ignore, kind of brush off race-based conversations, right? That sends, again,
They
mixed
do need
messages in
people
terms
to be
of
racist.
the
I
importance.
want to take the time to explain this for average person. He says it just sounds like they need people to become racist. They do need people to be racist. I talk about this in my book, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. You can pick up your copy at activelyunwoke.com. The link is in the description below. But I talk about this in the book. The woke left, to the woke left, racism is their God. It is their God. It is the thing that they worship above all else. If they cured society of racism, then what else would they have? What else would they do? They talk about racism all the time. They see racism all the time. They literally say that everyone and everything in life is racist. They're not trying to make the world a more fair and just place. If they cured racism, they would very literally kill off their God. Why on earth would they do that? They need people to be racist. They need parents to teach their kids to be racist. Because that's the only thing that is going to perpetuate their religious belief. The woke left don't want to make society less racist. They want to make society more racist because it is all they have in order to gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. If they cured racism, they would not be able to gain the political power they need in order to destabilize the system, attack capitalism, and usher in their little Marxist utopia. They don't care about racism at all. They only care about using it as a tool to attain more power. And in order to do that, they need to teach everyone, including children, to be racist from the time they are 3 or 4 years old. Because that is what's going to get them power, and that is really all they care about. That's it.
Of actually dealing with this issue. And these are some of the common mistakes that we oftentimes hear from both parents, and we also see it in research from parents, as well as teachers and educators about having these conversations. Right? And so the consequences, maybe I should actually go back and say before we get into some strategies, is that there actually are consequences to those mistakes, right? And we already talked about the kids may never have that conversation. We also at times see that kids who aren't having these conversations, they actually test higher in terms of correlation in terms of increased anxiety and confusion about, again, racial experiences. We're teaching kids to ignore racial differences and racial inequalities, and we're allowing implicit bias to grow without question. And again, the thing with implicit bias is that, you know what? It's only a
Implicit
matter of time
bias
between
can't be
those
measured.
implicit
How do you know
biases
it's
that we
growing
have
without
bleed
question?
out
You
into
can't
our
measure it.
actions, right? And so again, it's important that we actually think about it, because
There's
there are some
literally
real
no
life
way to measure
consequences
it.
to not having these conversations about race, right? And this is usually the part in the conversation where I make some comments that may not be appropriate or seeker friendly, that
Oh,
you
good.
have to think about the privilege of actually having these conversations, right? So if you self-identify as white, the reality is that you may not have to have this conversation, right? Although we just explain why you should have the consequences, the conversation. It could be very much so that you say, you know what, that's not my kids, that's not for me, and we're not going to have those conversations right now. We're going to wait till they bring it up, or we're going to wait till a little bit later, or what have you. And again, that's a privilege to actually have that decision, but understand that choice comes with consequences, right? For parents of color, where we oftentimes see that these conversations are more normal because we're doing it as a preventative mechanism to actually avoid potential issues when they arise, right? Not if they arise, but when they arise. And again, go back to those first slides, that there's a lot of research that shows that even as young as toddler, kids are actually starting to experiment with race-based discrimination in terms of who they want to play with, the type of play that they actually engage in, and so forth and so on. And so now we can kind of transition into the heart of the presentation. And again, forgive me if
We're just getting to
kind
the
of
heart of the
moving
presentation.
along at a pace that might be a little bit quicker than you may be used to or accustomed to. And again, I know it's a lot of information
You're
to
right,
process,
Jeremy.
but I
He is
am
teaching
hoping that,
Kendi, and
again,
Kendi
once
is a
this material becomes
Marxist.
available, that you're able to kind of go at a place that's more suitable to you moving forward. And again, please feel free to throw in your questions to the chat. Excuse me, not the chat, but necessarily the Q&A box, so that we can actually address as many of those as possible. And so again, I'm really eager to hear from you. Right. So let's get into what many of you probably are here to address. I'm going to talk about some research-based strategies. We're talking
Oh,
to kids
God.
about racism. And again, one of the
Adam is talking about Tim again. Does anyone know what Adam has said about Tim? I just got a message on Twitter. Anyway, let's keep going with this. Sorry.
things that oftentimes say, but you don't see here, is that oftentimes say, you know what, select one. I'm going to give you 8 strategies. What we do see in social science research is that if you give people too many strategies, they don't do anything. So I'm going to ask you to select one. So we're going to show you 8 in the next slide. Feel free to look at them and say, you know, which one of those do I want to implement in the next week or so, right? Which one of these do I want to implement in the next week or so, right? And again, one of the things that you're going to notice is that these are evidence-based best practices and strategies, but they're not groundbreaking, right? These are kind of common sense approaches that I think research has actually shown are really important in terms of actually addressing the implicit preferences or biases that kids have, that children have, in terms of how do you have this conversation? How do you broach the conversation moving forward? And so again, keep those questions coming as we actually get into some of these evidence-based strategies. Again, I'm going to ask you to select one. Select just one strategy. Feel free to do more than one, but I want to make sure that you think about one that you're going to do within the
Yes,
next
this
week or
is
so.
more
Now,
important
once
than
there's a
Adam
way
and
in which I can
Tim.
actually hold you accountable to making sure that you actually implement that moving forward.
Oh, mama, hang on. I want to say, I know some of you guys are watching this content with me for the first time today, and I'm so glad you're here. I really, really am. And if doing content about Tim Pool is what's required in order to drag more people over to my channel kicking and screaming, so I can show you the important stuff, because this is the important stuff, guys. Listen, I'll cover the Tim and Adam bullshit and, et cetera, because it brings more people into the channel. It gets me into people's watch history, so they get served suggestions for videos like this, which is actually the important stuff. But what I really want to articulate, if you're just getting into my content, and again, I'm really glad you're here, I will walk you through it. This is one of the lighter things that we've seen. This isn't even the bad stuff. That's why I'm kind of like looking around, and I'm doing like other things and like all that, because I've heard this a million times before. Now I'll sit here and watch it and knit with you guys and explain it, and I'll do all that stuff, but this is not even the worst stuff we've seen. And I hear that people are tired of like the Tim content. I get it, but I do need people to be patient with it though, because it's fucking working. And so again, if I have to do things to get more people, to get my videos into people's watch history so they get served the important stuff. Sometimes we got to take one for the team, man. If you don't want to watch the Tim content, you don't have to. I promise you, I will not be offended. But the problem is that YouTube suppressed my content for for over a year, really badly. And so I was in a place with the algorithm where my content was not getting served to people who weren't subscribed to my channel. It just wasn't. I had to do something to break out of it. And Tim Pool is apparently what people want. And so sometimes you got to play with the cards that you're dealt. And, you know, it is what it is. But I am really glad when people show up to watch the important stuff, because this Socialism Saturday, Schools Exposed, this is the important stuff.
And so again, you see the strategies right there. I'm going to go through them and give you a few examples, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So we see the importance of initiating conversations about both race and racism, the importance of asking questions as a tool. And again, this applies to, I believe, parents. It applies to caregivers, grandparents, teachers, administrators, anyone who's actually interested in having conversations about race with children and adolescents, whether you're in elementary, middle school, or even high school, right? And so if you have high school kids, it's still not too late. You say, you know what, we've never talked about race, and I have high school kids. Have I destroyed them? Not at all. It's never too late to have these conversations. This is different, right, from the birds and bees conversation, right, where you kind of have a conversation about the birds and bees. You don't really need to visit it again for a number of years, right, until maybe the kids are a little bit older and they're starting to develop in certain ways, right? This is an ongoing daily conversation that actually could be had, right? The importance of actually answering the questions of your teenagers, of your children, of your toddlers, right? The importance of actually seizing teachable moments, preparing children for racist encounters. We talked a little bit about that. Using a developmentally appropriate lens when having these conversations. Remember that what you say is important, but what you do is even more important, especially for kids from ages 5 to 13. Again, your actions are more important than what you actually say. And then the importance of actually facing your own racial biases. And so I'm going to go through these, give examples, and then I want to open up the questions that you might have so we can really get into conversations, right? So the first one is initiating conversations. Oftentimes what I hear is parents say, or caregivers or teachers to say, you know what, I'm going to prepare myself for when my kids bring it up.
This is the problem.
But the reality is what if kids don't bring
it up? But that's okay.
Right?
That's
doesn't mean that they're
okay.
not
We're
thinking
working
about
on it.
Doesn't mean that they're not making those associations. And so again, it's important that we actually initiate those conversations and we look for ways to initiate the conversations, right? Many people also believe that, you know what, the last thing teens are interested in is having a conversation with their parents about race. But again, even if teens aren't initiating conversations about differences, find ways to bring those topics up with them, particularly again, as we talk about race. And so again, we're talking about both preventative race chats and reactionary race chats, right? And so I always say that make race talks with your children or your teenagers routine. Revisit it again and again in many different ways over time, whether you're having a verbal conversation or whether you're actually using media such as books and bibliotherapy, or you're using films or movies to actually have these conversations. As we mentioned earlier, that this
Very
isn't
light.
a one-time conversation.
Come
So
to Socialism Saturday.
It's a marathon. It's an ongoing
Very light.
right? And again, you have those chats that are more preventative in nature that actually can help children form positive views about themselves and people of different races. So that when children observe
Come to
or,
happy hour on Fridays. Come to
observe views
Socialism
about race,
Saturdays.
again, we know that actually
Happy
happens,
hours on
but
my
how do we
second
actually
channel,
make it more preventative, more
youtube.com/actively
positive
unwoke.
ways? And there's also the reactionary
Link in the description
chats, right?
below.
Or responses to events or experiences from your children's life, right, as they happen. An example of a reactionary chat,
Or you can come for the
in
knitting.
that second video, is how do you explain George Floyd to your children? Or do you explain George Floyd to the children, right? Or to your adolescents or to your teens? Do you think they're too young to know about that, right? Do you think they're not paying attention, right? Again, what we see is that, you know what, that they are, and they have something to say. So again, plan for a marathon, not a sprint, and think about conversations that are both preventative in nature and reactive. And so I start to say, you know what, start naming and identifying race as a part of the way in which you describe the world. Yep. Who's that character? Yeah. And she has pretty black skin, pretty brown skin. Yeah. That character, yeah. You know what, that skin color we would consider white, right? And so again, when you're looking at picture books or watching TV shows or even viewing advertisements, begin to kind of include skin color and race in ways that you use to describe the world. And again, kids and adolescents, they're used to that, right? Cool blue truck. I like that really nice pair of black and brown shoes, right? And so if we use race to actually describe people, there's nothing wrong with that, right? People have races. We have racial identities, right? And again, we'll get into some other ways in which you can think about that in terms of how do you ask those questions, which jumps into our second conversation in terms of, again, use questions as a great strategy or tool to actually help you, to aid you in having these conversations, right? And so again, I'm always saying, encourage your children or your teenagers to share their race-related experiences, and feel free to actually explore their thoughts about it, right? What are their thoughts? What are they thinking? What are they feeling, right? What are some of the behaviors? What do those actions actually look like, right? And so some activities I say is that, you know what, feel free to ask questions early and often, right? And some questions I always say that, you know what, and these are questions that I ask my own kids, right? Or there's certain groups who never get to be the hero in the comic books or the movies, right? Who gets to be considered pretty, right? My kids love
They really believe it. They really believe
the
this.
whole Let It Go, Princess Anna, right? If Princess Anna's skin was black, would she still be beautiful? If her hair was different, would you still want hair like her, right? There's just conversations that I just throw out, right? Sometimes my kids answer, sometimes they ignore me, but that's fine. We're having these conversations, right? Do kids in your class ever get teased for being different in some way, right? How do you think you would feel if you were Hispanic or Latino and you read this book or watched this TV show or this movie?
This
right?
is a good question,
Understand that most of
Alatrope.
the
Let me pause this. This is a good question. Are these people simply ideologues, or are they indoctrination victims themselves? A lot of these people are indoctrination victims themselves, especially the teachers. Especially the teachers, because this all listen, this has been in the schools. I'm starting to come to an understanding that the equity stuff started to be really pushed into school policy and curriculum round about 2010-ish, give or take. 2010-ish. Now, that's not to say it didn't exist before that. It did exist before that. It's existed for decades, but I'm talking about primary and secondary school curriculum and policy. It was around 2010-ish. And the reason I say that is I've done an awful lot of these investigation streams now, and one of the things that I'm just very consistently finding is that the equity office, the equity report, the equity data, it starts to pop up around 2010, 2011. Okay? Again, it existed before that, but this is when it came into the primary and secondary public school system. That's why people like me, I graduated in like 1999. I graduated from college in 2003. I don't remember this stuff at all. And it was probably in schools in the 2000s, but I'm saying pushed into it in a formalized way in terms of policy and integration into the curriculum. Okay? So, what that means is that we have a whole generation of people who have come up through a school system in which this was starting to get integrated into the curriculum. The people that are in college now have never known a time when this wasn't integrated into the curriculum in the school system that they were in. The people in the colleges of education right now getting master's degrees to be a teacher have never known a time when this ideology wasn't in the school system they were in. And even prior to that, even prior to it getting formally integrated into the K through 12 school system, it was still integrated into the colleges. This shit has been in the colleges for decades. So where do the teachers in the schools come from? They come from the colleges of education. This has been integrated into the colleges of education for decades. So every teacher, pretty much 90%. This is why 90+% of teachers make donations to the Democratic Party. 90% of teachers come out of the colleges of education completely indoctrinated into this ideology. That means they have never known another way. And now on top of that, add that they then expanded into the K through 12 schools. So the colleges of education are going to start graduating kids, people, teachers, whatever. They're going to start graduating people that have literally been learning this ideology since they were 4 effing years old. This is the problem. They have never known anything different. So a lot of the people who are teaching this ideology in schools right now have literally never been taught any other way. This is all they know. This is what they've been given by the people they trust their entire lives. So in that respect, many of them have been indoctrinated into this ideology, just like they're trying to indoctrinate your kids today. Many of the people that we are most angry at have been indoctrinated into this ideology and are victims of it themselves. Really wrap your head around that. This is how big the problem is. 90% of teachers teaching in public schools today were not only indoctrinated themselves, but were taught to be a teacher by someone who was also indoctrinated. That is why the public schools are not fixable. They are not fixable. It will take at least 2 generations, at least, in order to fix the problems in the public schools. And that's with a lot of luck. That's not even a sure bet. That is with a lot of luck. You have got to get your kids out of the public schools. I know that's not a convenient message for a lot of you, but it is the reality. This is not a fixable problem. It is one of the things I want you to really see today is that it's being integrated into policy. It's being integrated into the curriculum. It's being integrated into professional development. It's integrated into the teacher training programs. And guess what? It doesn't matter how active the parents are in the community, because Fairfax County, Virginia, where this is coming from right now, what we are watching comes from one of the most active places for parent activism in the country. And they're still not fixing it. It's still all there. Sure, they've had a win here and there, and I'm not going to deny that they haven't. They have had wins, but they're still not fixing it. I really want people to see this and understand how big this problem is. You have got to homeschool your kids. If you don't want them to turn into this, you've got to homeschool your kids. It is the only way.
We have is riddled with stereotypes and misperceptions and lies about people from different groups. And media is actually oftentimes one of the main ways in which we're socialized to learn about other groups. And when I say media, I'm not just talking about Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. I'm talking about your textbooks and classes, right? And the other media that we actually consume, right? I ask my teenage students all the time, what about the cliques in your school?
Yes, and if they
Who's
have
this
to go to
together? Who
school,
does
make
that?
sure, like
Who's
Cider, they
excluded? Who's
understand what to
included?
look for.
Is any of that associated with race? And again, it's just about having conversations, ongoing conversation, right? Another one is, again, kids have answers, or kids have questions, feel free to answer them, right? And again, encourage your kid to ask questions and share their observations and their experiences, and to be
Hang
really
on.
respectfully curious.
Hang on. Hillsdale is 1 college out of 4,000. You've got 1 college out of 4,000. Not everyone can go to Hillsdale. Even if they could, not everyone wants to go to Hillsdale. You've got 1 college out of 4,000. That's not the answer. It's not the solution. I'm not shit-talking Hillsdale. I think that they're fine. I personally wouldn't want to go to Hillsdale because Hillsdale is way too conservative for me. I never would have gone there. I wouldn't even today. So that's not going to be the solution either.
about it, right? And you know what? It's okay not to have the answers, right? If you don't take anything away from our conversation today, please take that away from it, right? That you don't have to have all the answers.
Dude,
right?
see, this is I'm gonna be really blunt. This is the problem with conservatives. They're like, we've got one college, everything is solved, everything is solved. Oh, you don't think that's the answer? Then what is the answer then? I've been giving you the answer for the last 3 hours. This is like when conservatives go, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a bitch for a second. This is like when conservatives go, Scott Pressler is so amazing and we don't need to do anything because Scott Pressler is going to save us all. You've got one Scott Pressler, and guess what? Scott Pressler was in the hospital leading up to the election. And then you got your asses handed to you in the midterms because you relied on one Scott Pressler, just like you rely on one college. And you're like, well, if that's not the answer, then what is the answer? Conservatives, I literally wrote a fucking book for you on this. I wrote a fucking book for you about this. This book is filled with highly practical solutions. Go get the book. Go read the book. Ask me questions about the book. Go do the things I tell you to do in the book. Go do the things I tell you to do on these streams that I've been doing for 2 fucking years that you don't listen to. I have over 1,000 videos on this channel and on my other channel that are freely available right now, that are giving you solutions, that are giving you things you can do. I have a free podcast. You can find it at activelyunwoke.com/podcast that gives you free solutions, things you can do. You have to, if you already have my book, Lynn, then why are you asking this? Have you read the book? This is the problem. This is the problem. It's like it is, and if you think I'm being a bitch right now, I'm sorry, but it is extremely frustrating to me that I've spent the last 3 years of my life every single day trying to teach you guys about this, writing books about this, creating free content about this, doing everything I can to try to get people to do anything. And people are still like, I don't know what to do. You want a solution to college? Don't send your kids to college. Teach them how to get a job. Give them an apprenticeship. Do not send them to college. College is not going to fix anything. There are no good colleges that are going to teach kids life skills, and not even Hillsdale, and I don't even care if you like Hillsdale or not. If you want to fix this problem, then you need to start going out and doing the things that I have been telling you to do for almost 3 goddamn years. It is so incredibly frustrating. It is so frustrating. And I know what's going to happen from what I just did. Do you want to know what's about to happen to me from what I just did? Someone, probably before this stream is even done, is going to clip what I just did out of context and put it on Twitter and say, look, Carlin is a narcissistic bitch that just yells at everyone on Twitter. See, Lynn is already saying that now. Why are you yelling at me? Why are you yelling at me? This is what's about to happen. Someone is going to take this clip and they're going to clip it out of context and they're going to put it on Twitter and say, Carlin is just a mean, narcissistic bitch that just yells at people all the time. And that's what's going to be shared. That's what's going to be promoted. Not the thousands of videos and resources that I've given over the past 3 years. None of that at all. I'm going to have a chat full of whiny conservatives, a comment section full of whiny conservatives, a Twitter timeline full of whiny conservatives. How dare you yell at us, you bitch! That's exactly what's about to happen. That is how seriously people take this. Is they are more interested in being offended over my tone, just like Lynn, who has not read my book, I guarantee you, but will complain endlessly. will complain endlessly about my tone of voice, but will not go out and actually do anything. Sin just timed Lynn out. And it is extraordinarily frustrating every single time that I have people like that say, I just don't know what to do. I've given you what to do, man. And I will sit here pretty much every single day knitting and teaching you these things and repeating myself 18 ways from Sunday. But people still won't listen. I would give my kingdom for people who would listen and actually do the things that I say that they should do. All right, let's wrap this up, I guess.
It's okay to say that I'm not sure. Let's come back to that later, okay? Just make sure you come back to that, right? To be honest and direct and descriptive, right? Oftentimes kids have questions, and you know what? They're not looking for a
you,
thesis
Jeff.
or a dissertation in terms of the response.
Thank you.
You'd be surprised at
I
how just very
appreciate that.
simple, short, to the point answers.
And you
are
were
actually
lured in by
oftentimes
Tim
enough,
Pool. Gosh,
right?
Carson.
One of the things I would say is that, you know what? Don't assign adult attention.
I guess
behind
at least
kids'
I figured it
questions,
out, right?
And again, so again, part of it, this is really about us as parents, as teachers, as educators, as grandparents, as those who are actually in positions to work with kids, that it's really about pushing past our own discomfort, right? So again, my kids say a lot of things, and you see it in this the framework that's in front of you, right? Why do white cops hate us? Is a question that my son asked one day, just out of nowhere, right? As we're eating breakfast, we have to address that, right? You know what, buddy? All cops, they don't hate us, right? But there's some who, because of the way in which you look and the way in which your skin color
And by the
is,
way,
that
and
again,
this is the last thing I'm going to say on this, I promise. If you are more offended by my tone than you are motivated to get out and actually do something to fix this problem, then I guarantee you my tone is not the issue here. If you are more offended that I raised my voice in frustration for the fact that I have made literally thousands of freely available resources that people do not use, if you're more offended by my tone of voice than you are by what's going on in the schools every single day, then I am not the problem in this particular transaction. I did. I played the Tim Pool algorithm game. I did. I figured it out. I figured out you guys just wanted Tim Pool drama, and I will use Tim Pool's name every single fucking day if I have to get you guys to focus on what's important. I really, really will. Benjamin says, I remember when you interested me enough to subscribe to your channel from your appearances on Adam's show. Simpler times. Yes, indeed. And then I showed you how fucked up the world really is, and you've stuck around ever since.
and they may have negative thoughts about our behavior and what we might want to do, right? And right when I think that that's a satisfying answer, my son will follow up. Well, how do we know the good cops from the bad cops? I don't know. Right? I don't know. We'll have to come back to that later, buddy. Right? So again, thinking about those things. Why do her
that
eyes
should be
look
my
so
tagline for
right?
that should be my tagline for the channel. Let me show you how fucked up the world really is.
How can you be my dad when our skins doesn't match, right? One of the things that we're trying to, I have my youngest daughter is 5 years old. I'm trying to convince her that she's black. She said, how can I be black when I'm brown? I don't know. It's a good question, right? Race doesn't really make sense. We don't really fit neatly into those boxes, right? Other questions that you can actually steal as parents, look at, again, I don't know enough about why and fill in the blank, right? Or a kid says something. What do you mean about that? What do you mean by that, right? What makes you say that? Or you know what, buddy? You know, that's a good question. Or it's a really good observation, right? Or I'm just curious. What makes you say or ask that, right? Let's talk about this. I feel blank, right? You know what? There's a word for that. We call that like stereotypes in our society, right? Again, I want to talk about this, but I'm not sure how. Let's come back to this.
Maybe
right?
if
So
you
these are stands
super
that you
chat
actually
us
can
enough,
steal.
Joshua will
Maybe
take
those
his
of you
shirt
who are
off.
actually listening, you have stems that you've used. Use them, right? There's a website, and I have tons of websites
I'm going
for
to tell
you,
him I told you guys that later.
that I
I said,
encourage you all to
Joshua, if
actually
someone
go
super
to.
chats us
It's called
$100, you
100
have to take your
Race
shirt
Conscious
off.
Things, and there's a link to it at the end of the presentation. That again, it looks at a lot of the different themes and stems that you can
2
use to
years
have these
ago.
conversations, right? And again, there's a lot of people who are sad and mad because a police officer hurt, or we can actually put it, killed a man who was Black, right? And one of the ways in which they're airing out their anger is that they're protesting. Do you know what a protest is, right? It has those conversations. Or maybe your kids are older. You can say, you know what are your thoughts about George Floyd? Oh, I don't care, or oh, that's sad, but that's about it. Maybe we can explore that, right? Does it bother you that you're not as concerned about that, right? And again, you can have these conversations. And again, they don't have to last for hours. Sometimes it's a check-in, right? So please utilize that website. A few more before we start to transition into the question is, again, think about teachable moments, right? Again, especially for school-age kids, they respond better in lessons that involve real-life examples,
Yeah,
right?
Joshua
Rather than
will
kind
be
of
thrilled.
artificial stage discussions, right? So again, use their impolite questions or observations. Use social media or images or toys. I gave a presentation a little bit ago about the impacts of racism on mental health. We talked about how social media is one of the channels or the avenues in which oftentimes teenagers and adolescents are actually exposed to racial incidences like George Floyd's death, right? And it's in the cycle, and responding over and over. Use that as an opportunity to have this conversation, right? Use music video and songs, right? Again, a lot of the media, a lot of songs are riddled with stereotypes. Question it. Help kids actually start to think about things more critically so they actually can apply that. There's tons of books that are available. And again, I have resources for you all. So I'm not just giving you kind of blanket suggestions, right? There are some real resources as it relates to that. And also, again, think about the news. What's relevant, right? We talked about conflict resolution and social and emotional learning. Apply it to what's going on in the world, right? Again, using real current events to prompt such conversations. I don't know if this
All right,
slide has
this
ever
is
been
kind of
true as
boring,
it
to
is
be
today.
honest.
5, honesty is one of the best ways you
Boring.
this with kids who are 8.
Boring.
Video clips, book suggestions, short stories.
Boring.
Crazy, and I made mistakes and I had to come back.
He isn't a
Buddy, you remember
oh
when you said
my
that
God. Associate Professor of Education at the University of Virginia. Aha. And that little lecture I gave about this coming in from the colleges of education rounds about nicely, doesn't it? It rounds about nicely. I told you guys where this was coming from. It was College of Education. Dun da da. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up our schools exposed investigation for Fairfax County, Virginia schools today. So here's where I would like to go with this. I was planning on doing this today, and I do apologize that I didn't have time to do it with all the Tim Pool stuff going on, and I was on the phone a lot today, essentially is what happened. But what I want to do is I want to do a little bit of poking around into the Fairfax County schools myself. On my own, when I can just like motor through things and I don't have to explain everything and things like that. And so then we might do a part 3 where I show you kind of like my personal findings for what's going on. Now, I want to encourage everyone. If you want to poke around in the Fairfax County, Virginia schools, if you find things that you think are interesting, there's a couple ways that you can get in touch with me. Hang on. The first way is you can always email me at activelyunwoke@gmail.com. That is my general email address where people can send in stuff, whistleblower documents, all that stuff. And if you want to poke around and see what's going on in Fairfax County, Virginia, send me what you find. If you find anything interesting, even if you're not sure, that's totally fine, but send it in. Another thing that you can do is that my DMs are open on Twitter. Bing! At Dr. Carlin B. Even if I'm not following you, you will be able to DM me and send me a direct message with what you find. And we can suss it through together. And I'm also going to do research on my own. And I'm going to I'm going to see if I can find anything else. But guys, we're gonna wrap up the stream for today, and we might do a part 3. I don't know yet because I have to see what's there. There's also possibilities that we can FOIA stuff and things like that. I still want to get into their teacher training. I haven't seen anything about their teacher training. I want to know who their teacher trainers are. I want to know what their topics are. And I'm sure there's many other things that we could uncover on their website as well. So that's where we're going to end for today. Now, as a reminder, this is not even the only stream I'm going to do today. I have 2 more streams today because I'm that type of crazy person. In about an hour and a half, we are going live with Nothing Remotely Controversial. If you send in $100 super chat, I mean, I can't guarantee that Joshua will take his shirt off. It's cold in Los Angeles, I guess. And he probably won't want to anyway, but I'll try to cajole him. I will do my best to be like, Joshua, I told them that you would. And he'll be like, Carlin, fuck you. But more importantly, this is a show that Joshua and I do on Tuesday nights where it's fun, it's lighthearted. Joshua is a psychic. He will psychic what's going on. I will ask him, did Kanye plan to walk out of Tim Pool's podcast? Was there anything Tim Pool could have done? What happened there? We can talk about that tonight. You can send in your questions to ask him. We have a great old time, and that will be starting at 9:30 tonight. And then, just because we can't have a Tim Pool free day, I will be going live for a midnight movie. A midnight movie. Because Tim Pool's sister Lisa has released a video on her YouTube channel. I spent about an hour on the phone with Lisa today. Lisa wants me to share the video. And it's not about money. It's not about that. It's not about jealousy. It's not about that. She wants her brother back because she thinks he's changed a lot. And so I sent out the video. It's in the community tab on my channel. I tweeted out the video. You guys can go watch the video yourself. To be quite frank, I'm going to be watching this at midnight tonight because I do not have any other time to watch it today. I have other stuff I need to do. I have a life too. All right. And so I will be doing a midnight movie tonight because those of you who know me know that I'm a night owl. I work until like 1, 2, 3 in the morning. That's just when I do my best work. And so it's no problem for me to do a midnight movie. I wanted to watch the video and do a reaction to it so that I could see what it was. And then you guys will be able to see what it was and we will talk about it. And so that's going to happen at midnight tonight. And you are welcome to watch it before. If you don't want to stay up, that's totally fine. Of course, the video will be on the channel later today. But I really think that she just cares about her brother. Like I said, I spent a bit of time talking to her today. She is a very, very nice woman. I do not believe this is about money. I do not believe this is about jealousy. I do not believe it's any of that at all. She could have, she had already moved in. Like she was living in West Virginia. So she could have stayed there if she'd wanted to, but she didn't want to because of how she was treated. And I do think this is important to understand. I don't hate Tim Pool. I really don't. I'm not trying to destroy Tim Pool. I'm not trying to bring Tim Pool down, but for some reason, Tim Pool's former employees and now his sister have found their way to my phone. And so I am sharing the story that they are telling me because I do think it's an important story to share. All right, guys, that's all we have for right now. I'm going to go take a little break. I'm going to go eat some dinner for the first time any meal today. And I will see you guys at about 9:30 for Nothing Remotely Controversial, and then we will do our midnight movie tonight. And then that's it. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. Please mount the like button on the way out the door. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.